Where do you want to add it to?
Let's just do after, let's do new business. You can add it as, B under new business.
I got it.
All right. Moving on. Let us, in the approval of the minutes, we have minutes from December 19, 2021, from our special city council. If everyone has had a chance to review the minutes, I will entertain a motion. Motion to approve the minutes from our special meeting on December 29th. So second? Second. All right, all those in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
And then online, if you can just give a show of hands if you approve minutes. Councilor Choli just raised his hand, and Councilor Petrie, so unanimous. Next is the police department awards, but as we discussed over the phone, Mayor, we are going to try to push that off 1 month because we have some officers that are in trainings and not available tonight.
Yeah, and I apologize about that. We've got, Brian and I just got back from Bend.
Sure.
I've got Courtney down in Southern Oregon, Comcast, and out of my own pure, I want my team together.
Of course. We want everyone here as well.
It's a rare day that my team and all of us are together.
Yes.
And so it'd be great to have a picture, because I have about, I think, close to 10 awards to hand out
Wonderful.
and stuff. And so, you know, I apologize for that, but we are.
I really love it, and in fact, can we take a moment just to discuss quickly, since it's, pertinent to this item? But it would be great to have everyone here, maybe we could get Washington County to cover while, right, whatever, because it would be, it was so nice to have everyone here. And then, we also recently had, a citizen and his daughter involved in interaction involving, KPPD that I think they should be recognized. I'm not sure if everyone knows about what happened, but, I think it would be really nice for us to do, an award, appreciation award to the father and the daughter for helping Officer Courtney out. So I think we should do that at the same time as well, if that's okay, Chief, with you, just to add it afterwards maybe, or before, you know, either or. So let's add that to the agenda as well, next month, and then I'll reach out to the father and daughter and invite them here, in person. So we'll do that in person. All right. Great. Okay. So next up then is a special presentation by Tualatin Valley Fire and Rescue on the state of the district. Welcome.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I had been having a conversation earlier about whether or not I would go first, or a Metro Council would go first, and I feel that I should have gone second, but here we are.
You're on the agenda first, so there we go.
Thank you very much.
Right.
Thank you. Well, Mayor and members of the council, my name is Cassandra Olden. I'm a division chief with Tualatin Valley Fire and Rescue. Chief Weiss unfortunately had a conflict that he couldn't reschedule, so you get me tonight. With that, I think that Ronnie's going to pull up our presentation. Will I see that on this screen? Oh, yes, there we go.
Woohoo! Nancy and her.
Oh,
Back in person.
Good, all right, real pictures, and I don't have to run a PowerPoint, so this is going to be better for all of us. So, as you probably recall from past presentations, we give you a little snapshot of what we have done in the past year, as well as some things that are on the horizon for us. And so I'm really excited because we have some King City specific items tonight that will be probably of use for you to know. And in one moment, we'll advance the slide, I think. All of it.
We're getting you right now.
I know, right? Captain, all of a sudden,
Well, and we're getting used to coming back in here, and then of course being hybrid, and so you know, in about 10 meetings we're gonna get there. It's gonna be smooth.
Well, I will give staff credit for this, that King City was the last city to transition to not just paper presentation. So for years, you know, the chiefs that would be coming to speak with you would say, wasn't there a PowerPoint? I said, no, there's paper. So credit to staff, even if there are occasional snafus, that you've got technology. So this
Right, we're a city for all ages, we're not just,
So even in the absence of photos, I'm just gonna do more talking because it's just mostly photos. But, the last year, as it has been for everybody, has been really unique and challenging. We had the pandemic, we had ice storms, we had heat waves, you know, we were kind of just waiting for the locusts to come. And, we're really happy to be transitioning back toward normal operations. But as I was sharing with Mayor Fender earlier, we are still transitioning some things.
There it is. Sorry.
Oh, no worries. You want me to slow down?
No, you're good.
Okay.
You're good. I didn't mean to interrupt, but just letting him know he succeeded.
Good, because I have no talent, so I'm just a little bit worried that we're gonna have to do some other entertaining.
You're doing great.
Perfect. So we have mostly transitioned back. We're in normal operations. We have been doing community events that are non-emergency. By May 15th, we're going to transition back to in-person community indoor events. The reason that we wanted to wait is because, as Mayor Fender and I were discussing, we still have a lot of exposures during the Omicron surge. We had 87 of our line personnel with COVID between January 1st and February 15th. We are still experiencing a situation where nearly daily, we order back people on the line to work when they weren't scheduled to work. And that's not ever been our MO. Thankfully, we have not had any degradation in our engine company response. We've not had to close fire stations, although some fire stations have outside of our jurisdiction. And so we do feel thankful that we have been able to maintain continuity and response reliability, but it's been rough. And so we are frankly just back to the point where we're getting into those normal operations. We are super pleased because we had a paramedic academy wrap up. We have deployed those folks to the front line. We have a recruit firefighter academy underway now, and those folks will be on the line here in a matter of months. And we frankly expect to do 2 academies per year for the foreseeable future. And so we have, as I mentioned, been able to maintain response reliability, but we are eager for a little bit of stabilization in that regard. Next slide, please. I'm pleased about this because this is the slide that we're showing your other fellow councils in other cities. But you have on the very left there one of your former lieutenants from King City. Good news is, formerly Lieutenant Karen Burecker is now a captain. So Captain Burecker is at the Charbonneau Station in South Wilsonville, and she's thriving there, not surprisingly, because she's a superstar. But the reason that we have her picture up there and the reason that we have this listed as officer development is because we will have 38% of our workforce eligible to retire within the next 5 years. That's every mid-manager on the line and non-line level, all the way up to the fire chief in the next 5 years. So that exodus of talent means that we need to invest more effort than we ever have before in officer development. And we want to see more Captain Bureckers, quite frankly. So while we are exceeding the national average, which is 4% of females in, firefighter or ranked positions, we have 7%. We're a little better, but that's not good enough. And we need to do more for officer development, and that's something that is a pretty considerable priority for us in this next year. In a similar vein, recruitment. We know that we want to better reflect the communities that we serve, and we really need to do a better job of recruitment. And it's also a conversation that I was having with someone earlier, that we have invested time and energy. I think that's why we're better than the national average, but it's definitely not enough. And that's just the statistics related to female firefighters or line personnel, but we know we can do better. We've done girls' camp every year. I would definitely invite all of you to come out this year. It's in July. I think it's July 13th through the 15th that we have at our training center. And it's an empowerment event. It's designed to show young women that, look, just because you're smaller, just because, you don't see very many people that look like you, that doesn't mean that you're not capable. As long as you fit, there are techniques, and you have to work hard at it. We don't relax our standards by any means for anyone, but we need to do more recruitment, and that is an opportunity for us to improve that. our board, our budget committee, clearly our fire chief support. So, and then lastly, an opportunity to improve for us is our education and outreach. We do a lot of education and outreach, at least pre-pandemic. We did a lot of in-person. We're excited to get back to that. But where we're missing the mark is interacting with members of our community who might not have English as their first language, members of our community who have been historically marginalized and may not have access to the education and the resources. And frankly, when they see a badge, may not feel especially warm or excited or may feel hesitant, and we want to break down the stigma behind that. And it's not unique. Obviously, law enforcement has had a whole other dynamic to contend with in this realm, but so do we. And so we need to do more. The picture that you see there is Captain Esparza. He's one of our Spanish-speaking captains now, but he does a lot of education. And there again, if you don't see someone that looks like you, if you don't hear someone that has a similar background and sense of context that you have had, then how do you feel connected? How do you feel empowered? How do you listen to the messages? So those are opportunities to improve that we are focusing on there in our strategic plan. We have made investments and we will continue to do so. Next slide, please. So thank you to all of you. I know that King City was supportive when we had a bond measure on the ballot in November. We're really grateful for our community. We passed that bond measure. We also, because we were getting ready to sell bonds in January, we sought a new rating from Moody's. So for those of you that don't know about Moody's, it's basically the credit score. Probably all of you in this room do. And we got a AAA bond rating. And the result of that AAA bond rating is that we get money for better borrowing rates. So we just sold our first round of bonds. We got a 1.49% interest rate. I think our timing with the market was superb. So, you know, in a perfect world, we wouldn't have to borrow money to do significant projects or to invest in the future. But the reality is we don't have a huge savings account for that. We have savings, but not the size and scope that one would need to do the kinds of things that have to be done for us, which will include improvements to 10 of 29 of our fire stations, a rebuild of your station, Station 35 that serves the city, purchasing of land, purchasing of apparatus, and investments in our training center that's not far from us down the road, off Thompson Road and near Sherwood. So we're really pleased that we have the ability to make those investments. And here's where I come for a shameless ask. It's probably not lost on you that we will have the need in the future to build a fire station. It will be Station 31. And as you probably also know, we use data. And we know that if we dropped a pin in the perfect location of where a future fire station would be, it would be Beef Bend and Roy Rogers Road. So we're pleased about the planning that you're doing. And City Manager Weston and I will probably continue to have dialogue, as will our fire chief, but we are really interested in partnering, if it's possible, with the City of King City as you make your future plans so that we can site a fire station there. So in addition to my shameless ask, we would like to know if you have any recommendations, because when we rebuild King City, we're going to need to put firefighters in a temporary spot. So we'll live just about anywhere out of a mobile home, and that can be in a church parking lot, a school parking lot, King City Civic Association. I know that's location. So we are interested in any ideas that you might have for us when we get through that. The King City Station is a priority for us. You probably know that we actually had wanted to rebuild the King City Station previously, but it's going to be happening very soon. So that was my asking. Next slide, please. It's not lost on you that we want you to know what we're responding to. So in 2021, just within the city limits of King City, we responded to nearly 1,000 calls for service. The most notable thing that might be hard for you to read here, and I know that you have a copy of this in your packet to look through, but one thing I want you to know is this is the kind of data that we use to drive our decision making. It's the same data that we use currently to decide what goes in each fire station. Is it a truck? Is it an engine? Is it both? Does it include a rescue unit? It also helps us identify where we may need to locate resources in the future. The most notable thing about this for you is probably that Station 35, which we refer to as the King City Station, responds to 87% of the calls within your city limits. So that's affirmation that it's in the right location. That yellow spot and those red spots, those are the hot spots where we have call density occurring within your city. So we monitor that as well, because oftentimes those are locations like assisted living facilities. And if we don't have a fire station nearby, or we don't have reliable transportation infrastructure, that will inform what and where how we do things in the future. You'll probably remember this for those of you that have heard past presentations, but for every 10 calls that we respond to for service, 7 of those calls include some facet of emergency medical care. That, frankly, is more of our business, if you will, than fighting fires. In King City, that's especially true, where 1% of your calls are fires. I think that's likely also because you have a very responsible demographic. You have people that are home more often. You have people that are more conscientious about smoke alarms and fire prevention. We'd love to see those statistics district-wide, but we appreciate that about King City. Lastly, I want to say that you may notice we have a dip in our calls from 2020, and that was district-wide. What we attribute that to is that people were hunkered down during the pandemic. We weren't driving on roads as much. There were fewer crashes. There were fewer fires district-wide because people were home, and more attentive. And so, but we're back to normal, and our trend lines continue, which is why we're excited to make those phone investments. So next slide, please. So this is Station 54 in Charbonneau. I mentioned that Captain Berecker is the captain of this station. Now, why are we talking about a new station in Charbonneau at your King City Council meeting? Well, that's because every fire station that we add improves the reliability of our entire system. So we use automatic vehicle location through our dispatching agency, which means that we have the closest unit to any call, and we're constantly, dispatch, I should say, is constantly moving apparatus, moving resources up so that we don't have glaring holes. This particular unit is a rescue unit staffed with 2 people, 24/7, and they can not only do transports, because we are a subcontractor in Clackamas County, so they support that aspect of our work, but also they can be first in on a fire. They can take command, they can order additional resources. They can't go in because there's only 2 of them. They have to wait for backup, but still that immediate response is helpful. So this station came online in September of last year, and we're really excited to see what Captain Berecker and her team do at that station. Next up is our CHARM program. Next slide, please. So the CHARM program stands for Community Health and Resource Management. This is a pilot program. This program is, we say it's kind of named after one of our medical services officers who has a very long career in EMS. She started as a firefighter with Portland. She's passionate about EMS, but the essence of this program is that we have some high utilizers of 911. Those high utilizers of 911, while they may legitimately have needs, most often have above average needs, right? They may have mental health issues. But as an example, we have a gentleman in Tualatin who has called 911 85 times since January 1st. So every time that person calls 911 and may have legitimate needs, may not, but it takes a unit out of service, right? So our pilot aims to proactively be with some of our high utilizers that we've identified in the system to go before they call 911, to try to identify the things that they need help with so that they don't use 911 as their last means for help. And when these people call 911, their circumstances have exceeded their ability to manage them. And everybody's definition of what constitutes an emergency is different, but it does degrade our response reliability because we have a lot of high utilizers in our system. So we're going to do this pilot for 1 year. Our hope with that is to prove the concept that having community paramedics in a proactive basis, helping and partnering with some of our county health partners and others on a proactive basis gives them better care, better outcomes, and definitely improves the impact on 911. So, the other thing that I'd like for you to know just generally about the EMS system, in case you don't already know, is that we respond for all hazards, right? But we don't take people to the hospital in all cases. In Washington County, we're not the private ambulance provider. The pandemic has shined a light on how EMS systems with hospitals, ambulance transport systems, et cetera, across the nation are struggling even in the absence of a pandemic. And so it really illuminated some glaring things in Washington County in particular that we are hopeful to be part of changes. In February, we did an emergency contract because the ambulance provider on a daily basis didn't have any units to take people to the hospital. And so we want to be part of those changes and solutions. Next slide, please. So the next slide that you're about to see is related to wildfire training and legislative efforts. You might have seen a little bit about this or heard about this in the media. One of our chiefs was part of the committee, the governor's task force, the Senate Bill 762, to secure investments for Oregon for wildfire prevention and response, and that was a big success. Chief Hallman was on the task force, the governor's task force, to try to figure out how are those monies best spent, what kind of investments can we make here in our district, and then how can we equate that to a better response. The Chehalem Mountain Ball Peak Fire is not that far from here. Probably saw it. It was the biggest wildfire in our history. We didn't lose a single home. Nobody was hurt. No animals were hurt. But we were definitely, it was really daunting. I mean, it was not something that we expected to see in the same way that we didn't expect to see the heat waves that we saw, right, in the past. And so the climatologists, the meteorologists are telling us that this season is going to be as bad or worse. So we have already begun training. Our training blocks this month are intensively focused on that. We do have a wildfire cadre. Those are folks that are above average trained, that they also get deployed at times, but we have to improve our base level of wildfire conversancy because most of our firefighters are really structural firefighters. So we will continue to work in earnest on that, and we'll keep you posted. Last slide. We talked earlier about education and outreach, and we had to get creative with the pandemic about how we conduct that outreach, and why by no means do we want to sacrifice the in-person. We've had to do a lot of training through webinars and different social media and things like that. The one good thing with that is people were participating that wouldn't otherwise be able to. People that couldn't necessarily pack up their kids, drive in a car, be in an evening meeting, go back, and things like that. So we're trying to leverage that. We just reorganized our risk reduction efforts, and we're bolstering that, and we're doing more newsletters and outreach and social media and things to try to prevent emergencies from occurring in the first place. So we're going to continue to evolve that work, and if you have any feedback for us, we would love it, but we've seen some good things, and we want to continue that. So hopefully by next year, we can give you some metrics that show that those efforts are not in vain. And with that, I think we only have one more slide. Thank you. Thank you for your partnership. Thank you for everything that you do to serve King City residents, and we appreciate the planning. I mean, as was mentioned during former Mayor Gibson, the thing, because I've worked for TDFNR for 24 years, and I think Mayor Benny made a point about, King City, the city. I remember when I first started working for the fire district, it was so small, and the planning and the ability of staff was limited because it was so small. It really was reliant on volunteerism. And while your city manager and you don't have a lot of staff, you don't have a lot of means, they're doing incredible things, and the planning that has taken place and everything else that you are leaning towards is pretty impressive. So thank you. I'm not just shamelessly saying that because we want to be neighbors. We're grateful for you. So with that, do you have any questions?
Questions?
So what's the charm pilot program? Is that kind of like you putting a social worker in the system to kind of get out and kind of like what the police department has partnered with social work?
Absolutely. We're taking some cues from law enforcement. We don't right now partner with we don't have them going in tandem for the proactive visits, but they're on speed dial for our community paramedics. We've got 2 community paramedics dedicated to this now. As I mentioned earlier, we've had some staffing issues, so we couldn't pull a whole lot of people off the line. But we're hopeful, but they're working hard. Our two community paramedics, sometimes I worry a little bit about them, but there's a lot of opportunities, and ideally in the future, you'd see a tiered approach if there's mental health issues involved, law enforcement, fire, and social services.
Very great program.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I apologize, in my,
Oh, I was just gonna ask a little bit more information about that girls' camp. Are you recruiting high schoolers for that, or, yeah? Like
Ages
graduates?
16 through 24. And it goes.
I could come.
You can watch. It's pretty incredible. It's pretty incredible because you see, if you're there from day one to the last day, you see a transformation, both in their confidence, in them doing things to see them throwing sledgehammers and things like that. It's really awesome.
So how do you advertise that? Do you go to the high schools? Is that?
We've been listing it on social media, we buy it, we blow up their Insta. I say that like there was no. So, yeah, that's how I actually do have a, teenage daughter, but, so we're doing a lot of social media and sharing like this, and so we usually have far more applications than we do stops, and it's a partnership between Portland Fire, and TDS and our locally, but it's all female firefighters that run it. So all they see is female firefighters, chiefs and et cetera, all female. And so that alone creates a synergy that I think is really valuable. So thank you. Very cool. Thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you.
I have a couple comments.
Okay.
But just, one of the comments, for a very long time, I've taken my kids to Sherwood, to the Public Works event that's at the Sherwood Station. And I have hit up TBSR a few times to have it in King City, but I was told that our station as it sits now is not big enough, the surrounding parking lot isn't big enough to hold that kind of event.
Definitely not.
So are they looking at reconfiguring the ground to have it be a little bit larger for the sole purpose of having this event that I've been trying to get for years?
Yeah. I love that you love that because I organized the community fair for years.
Wow, I
So
just love it, so, yeah.
I would love to say yes, but the footprint of that site is pretty limited.
Okay.
And so I don't ever see us having enough space there to be able to do that. That doesn't mean that we couldn't try to do something similar elsewhere, but
I think our new
that's.
fire station 31, that'd be.
And if you, let us buy some dirt from you.
So that would
I
definitely, we'll make
guarantee.
sure it's big enough,
I guarantee.
we'll have it there.
Okay.
So,
I guarantee, well, that's
And
what
then
I'm
I just-
we got the land, right?
That's
So I'm gonna take that.
You,
Yeah, I'm teasing, I'm just trying to get that on the record, Ronnie.
For a motion.
I know. See how we roll with firefighter?
Quick,
I'm done.
And then just anecdotally, right, in 2021, my family is one of those calls, and I just want to share how much I personally appreciate Station 35. We had a family emergency. They came, we had no idea what was going on with my dad. It was all very confusing, from stomach upset to just a headache. And they kind of convinced him to go to the hospital, and it turned out that he had a hemorrhagic stroke, and then he had a secondary stroke in the hospital. But I truly believe that had he not gone to the hospital, he would be dead. So it's the quality of our firefighters here and elsewhere within the system is just bar none, and I really personally was, impacted by how great of a fire department we have. So we thank you for everything you do for King City, and I know we're all personally touched at some point, right? Hopefully it's good outcomes like we experienced. So thank you.
Glad
Thank
it's
you.
okay.
Yes, he's good. He's good. I'm taking him to New York in a couple weeks for his 75th birthday.
Oh,
They'll
perfect.
probably kill me, but I put on the record how old he is. No one repeats that. Anyway, we appreciate your time tonight.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Let's just grab lunch, because we need to talk about property footprint.
Perfect. Thank you, I'm just gonna go along with it.
All right, thank you. All right, up next, we have Councilor Rosenthal from Metro for a Metro update. Thank you for, waiting around. You've been here for hours, but we love you here in King City.
Well, I'm very glad to hear the TVF in our presentation. It's really pretty interesting, and I'll have a couple comments on that. I'm going to wait for a second to see if he gets the slideshow up.
And before you go, Ryan, is there a way to turn the TV down? I hear background there, you know? Is that what's coming from? I hear laughing and that, but I also think that if we could turn it off. Perfect. All right, thank you.
I couldn't figure out where it was going.
Shonda made a great presentation, lots of good stuff going on, and I hope she gets her new station. Let me know when you're ready.
But I'm putting the screen out here when it's just.
There we go. There we go.
Is there a slideshow option?
All I have is PDF, and
So you can just
I'll
slide
tell you
it
what's going on later about this.
up. Okay. All right. Metro Regional Action Update. A lot of things to follow. There's a lot of things going on with Metro. I have to say, I really appreciate being here to the council and to the mayor and to, you know, the staff leadership for King City. You know, I always enjoy coming and talking to you guys. You guys have become a sort of formidable action in this local area, so I'm glad to do that. I just want to cover a bunch of things, and I appreciate any questions, comments, or even criticisms, because we learn in Metro, we learn more by people telling us what we're doing wrong than by people nodding their heads and saying, yeah, that's okay. So I would like to get that. And as I told the former Mayor Gibson, one of the reasons I ran for Metro is because there is a tendency for Metro to be a little bit of Portland-centric. And so the smaller cities need to be heard. And so that's a perspective that I like to maintain. I live out in the country in Tualatin. So anyway, next slide, or slide up, whatever you can do. Just to let you know, we know our problems are real, but our progress is also real, and that's what I'm really going to try and talk about mostly. A lot of people, the pandemic has slowed a lot of things down, made things a little harder, and there's been a lag time in some of the things that you don't see, but I'm going to try and cover a little bit of that. Okay, we can move on. We're trying hard, I think. So first of all, regional homeless services. So far, we've placed 456 people into supportive housing, 1,400 households received regional rental assistance, and 700 regionally funded shelter beds. Now, you've heard a lot of discussion about the shelter beds. We have 700. I think we had some extra shelter beds during the last cold spell. The policy in Metro is not just to get people into shelters, but to make sure they can get into homes and that they can stay in homes. And of course, one of the things I just wanted to comment, see the Tualatin Valley Fire and Rescue is also pretty important in that regard, because when people who have problems, medical problems, seniors, go into these new shelters, these new homes, they're going to have problems, and they're going to call TVFR, excuse me, 911, hopefully not 85 times in 3 months, but TVFR is going to be one of the first responders in many cases and going to provide a lot of the assistance that's going to help people stay in these homes. So one of the things, we have the bond issue, $625 million. We're ahead of schedule a little bit to build the units. We've had some benefits from the way the financing worked during the COVID. My voice is failing me tonight for some reason. I think it was one of those apples, I'm not sure. But we're a little bit ahead of schedule, but people don't realize that once we had the bond, we had to make sure that the various housing agencies had the monies. And that's, you know, there's 7 of them. There's Hillsborough, there's Beaverton, Gresham, and then the 3 counties and Portland. And then it takes a while. It's a little more complicated to build housing for people with fewer means, because you usually get 4 or 5 different entities. You often have a private developer, a nonprofit, the county, Metro, and they all have and then federal funding, and they all have slightly different requirements. So it takes a little bit longer than you're just a developer. You can get a building permit and you can start building for market rate. So it has taken a little longer, and I understand people are frustrated with that. But we're building. There's a couple being built. There's a couple that have opened in Tigard and Beaverton. They're planning in Tualatin. There's another one that's just recently opened out in Cornelius. So it's happening, and I'll show you a little bit. Next slide, please. This gentleman is a good story. He was the Arbor Lodge Winter Shelter helps people into permanent housing. His story is pretty interesting. This name is Lonnie. We met him after Thanksgiving when voter-approved funding kicked in to expand the shelter beds. He'd been sleeping in his car. After losing a family member to an overdose, he was looking to avoid relapsing, and he checked into the North Portland shelter run by Do Good Multnomah. Within a day, he'd met with a caseworker, got fresh clothes, had a job interview, and his words are a reminder to all of us. He said that the shelter gave him a lot of hope, and there are hundreds of people like Lonnie, and we're working to get them on the path from the streets to stable housing. And as you know, a lot of these people, just putting them in a house isn't enough. You have to make sure they have the ability to stay there, and that sometimes means jobs, sometimes it means substance abuse treatment, sometimes it means behavioral assistance, sometimes it means helping with the carceral system. As you know, some people can build up tremendous debts in the carceral system that they have trouble working around. They don't have the legal capacities. So we're trying to provide all of that, and the money is going out there. Next slide, please. Or the next, sliding up. The housing bond, 184 homes, units are already open. The one in there's Mary Ann, excuse me. Takes me back. I used to live in Eugene. I can never escape that. 180 units are open. There's another one in Tigard, 2,800. Well, we just opened two in the last week or two. One was out in Happy Valley, and another one was out in Cornelius. 2,800 more are in design permitting for construction, and so by the end, we should have at least 12,000 people will have affordable homes. So it's progress, but it takes a little longer. They weren't quite all build ready. The sites weren't always acquired, the permits weren't always done, the deals weren't always put together. Next slide, please. One other thing, this is an important slide. This is, you see where the projects are. You can scroll just a hair, that would be great. Pre-construction, light blue, under construction, those are the dark blue, and complete. And you can see there's this shows 3 complete, there's actually a fifth one now. So this is a slightly out of date, but it shows you that it's scattered throughout the region. And that was one of the goals of the housing bond, because every city that I talked to has some level of housing problem, and they're all different, but the goal is to try and make sure that people don't have to all move into the central city just to have housing, that they can live out where their family might be, or where they have sometimes a part-time job and so forth. Next slide, please. And real progress is providing report. As I mentioned already, more outreach staff, more addiction recovery, greater regional coordination. One of the hard parts was getting all 3 counties on the same page. As you know, all the counties are somewhat different. Washington County behaves differently than Multnomah County, and there's different levels of problems, and so we had to agreement on who gets the funding, and then have to get them all to a common, not identical, but a common set of values in terms of the local government agreements. Because when it comes to supporting housing services, tax benefits, distributed to the counties, and the county then gives it to the nonprofits or the other private groups that are administering it. So we're sort of hands off, but we retain regional coordination. And again, it's this principle that we don't want somebody to say, well, I can't get services here in Washington County, so I'm going to move to Clackamas County. So trying to get everybody on more or less the same page, I mean, not trying to make them fall into lockstep, but get them at least the same goals has been important. Next slide, please. One of the things that you'll have noticed, and it's not so much a problem out here, of course, but if you travel in Portland, you see a lot of trash on the streets. And that was one of the biggest problems we had with the COVID, is we had used carceral help during COVID. We couldn't do that during COVID. So we had a response time of about 3 days for picking up trash. Metro was responsible for sending out our grid patrol teams to do that. We were 3 days, and then with COVID, we went up to 65 days. Trash built up, and we really couldn't do much about that. We have now added 2 more Ridge Patrol crews, plus a couple other crews in partnership with some local nonprofits. So now we're down to 3-day average response time, 826 tons of trash removed. And recently, we just got a $10 million grant from the legislature to help clean up the throughways in I-5 and I-205 and 26 and so forth in the area. So let's just say the area looks a little bit more presentable in time for the World Athletic Track and Field in Eugene coming up in 2 months. Next slide, please. This is sort of where they're busy. This is sort of a pretty slide, but you just see that there's a lot of it happening, and it is happening all over. I can't tell you what the colors mean. I think those are, there's a color code, but that's not critical at this point. Next slide. Now, transportation is a big issue that you all know about, and transportation ties together their housing developments, it ties together people with their jobs, with their hospitals, with education, and with recreation. So we're undergoing what is called the Regional Transportation Plan. There was a 2018. We're now starting the process of re-upping again for it. So it was 2018 to be for 2040. We have to redo it again. As you know, technology has changed, climate situation has changed, the pandemic has changed people's perceptions. We have different work habits. So there's a lot of stuff that's going to go into this. So that's one of the things we're updating right now. One of the big portions of what we have is reasonable flexible funds, and that's what affects you more directly than anything else, getting the ability to tell the county or tell Metro what projects you need here locally. And I would tell you that one of the projects that seems to get continually, and that always bothers me, is it planning for Highway 99W. So we need to do more planning for 99W. And one of the big reasons is, of course, because King City is going to expand in the Rivermead area, and as you know, Tigard wants to expand in the River Terrace east, west, I don't know, south too, I don't know, whatever the last number is. So there's going to be a lot more people out there on the Beef Bend Road area, and these people need to get places. And it's going to make situations on 99W. So that's one of the things that are my biggest concern. You also know that there are some projects of regional impact. The I-205, the Abernathy Bridge, we have a vote coming on that tomorrow for the, we have to modify or amend what's called the MTIP, the Metropolitan Transportation Improvement Program. OTC has said if we don't pass the modification, then we can't start construction, or I should say they can't start construction on the bridge and the extra lane on 205 this year. So we're under a bit of pressure. We've asked for a lot of things from them, and we've gotten some commitments that they're going to work a lot harder on diversion traffic problems, and they're also going to work a little bit more on outreach and dealing with making sure that they can do something about the diversion before they actually install tolling. We're not happy with the tolling. As you may know, some of the cities, Westland, Oregon City, and so forth, Clackamas are not very, and Lake Oswego are not very happy with the tolling. There is a plan to have a regional tolling project, probably to replace, to some extent, the gas tax, which is diminishing, as we know. Then, of course, 217, you know, is causing everybody a headache, but it's an improvement. It will be an improvement when it gets done. Right now, it's, you know, transportation always is a mess when it's undergoing construction. And then, of course, there's the Interstate Bridge, and then there's the Moda Center project. So there's 4 big regional projects that will affect us all. We have this network. Anyway, so we're working on it. Anytime you have concerns, please let them be known, because we can only address them if we hear what you want, what is bothering you, and so forth. And then, of course, there is always the Southwest Corridor. And that's sort of on hold right at the moment, but it hasn't gone away entirely. So, next slide, please. Supporting the economy. One of the things that you know Metro does is we try and support the economy through the venues that we manage. The Oregon Convention Center, it has come back. We've had some recent events there. I actually went to the auto show. Didn't find my car in my dreams, but, you know, and in fact, every car that I found that I wanted, they said, well, you might have to wait 2 years to get it. It's like, okay, well, I'll have to think about that. The Expo Center, we have a study to try and figure out what to do for the next 20 or 30 years. It's called the DOS, something operating strategy, diversity operating strategy. That's under study. There's the Metro Commission, which is also looking at that. It may stay exactly the same. We have to honor the history, of course, because it was the, you know, incarceration place for the Japanese Americans, and it also was close to the Vanport. So there's a lot of history there that has to be protected. But that coming back, it had a bunch of exhibitions there recently. There was a DEI session there just Friday, or just 2 days ago, I guess. Then Portland 5, National Reopening Model, they're doing good. They have a lot of stuff booked. Now I think it's gonna be easier. I think you'll find that people will be half wearing masks and half not. And then the zoo has been really quite a success story. We're gonna hopefully get the final, accreditation this summer by the American AZA. There's been some fun things or interesting things going on. We have a new orangutan, a baby orangutan, which if you have kids, something that they should, it's just gonna be, I think it's on display now. We have, of course, 2 polar bears and a great polar bear exhibit. The elephant exhibit is good. We have the new rhino, and I saw pictures, they did dental work on one of the existing rhinos. And when you see a drill like this, and you go thinking of the last time you were in the dental chair, you go, whoa, baby, I'm not, anyway. So there's a lot of good stuff going on at the zoo, and there are gonna be some small concerts. They haven't decided on whether to open up the zoo concerts yet. They're gonna wait and see how that goes. It's not gonna be this summer, though, okay? So bringing these things together and making them viable and bringing people back is really an important element in the overall area. And I do have to mention, even though it's not a metro facility, you know, Beaverton just opened the Reeser Center, which is also gonna bring more cultural diversity out into the Washington County area. And so I think that's great. It's a beautiful facility if you haven't been there. Parks and Nature. As you know, Parks and Nature got a lot of use during the pandemic. When we couldn't go out, you know, hanging on our favorite brew pub, we went out and walked or took bicycle rides. And so everybody knows that we spend a lot of time out in the parks. So there was a lot of use there. They were critical during the pandemic, and people appreciate that. We have a great deal of focus on equity and getting people more access to them and making sure that we put them in places that people want. We have 24 key areas. So there's the regional projects grant. I know that you have some issues with parks here. And I don't know entirely yet the best way to get these things in front, but obviously if your Parks Department says this is a priority, that's one of the best things you can do to say, this is an area we want to see some local. Because there's $92 million this cycle for local parks. And of course, it's competitive to some extent. I mean, you're competing with,
Everyone.
You're competing with everyone. There's 24 or 26 park districts. Of course, you know, the big one is Tualatin Valley.
Right.
But nonetheless, people are pretty cooperative, but there's a lot of needs. Now, we have also a big park acquisition program. We passed the big bond a few years ago, and it's been a little slower going because we had to figure out exactly the criteria, but we have made progress, and we're making more progress. We're going to be spending more money. We've opened Chehalem Ridge, which is out by Gaston, if you know where that is, south of Hillsborough. That's a nice big 1,000-acre park with hiking trails, bicycle and horse trails, and a great view from the top. Newell Creek Canyon was opened last weekend, the weekend before. And that is the first park we have that has mountain bike terrain for people who want to do mountain bike. The bike community is really quite happy with that. We bought a big piece of property at the confluence of the Clackamas and Deep Creek. And we have other things going on, and we're going to be adding new parts to trails. My personal feeling is there's a little bit of absence of focus on our area, and so that's what I'm speaking to. You know, there is some, but it doesn't always get the priority that some of the other areas do. That's just my personal feeling, but it's my district. Next slide. And I guess that's really about it. Our goal is to create a region that works for everyone. You know, Metro's trying to do a lot. We don't always get it right. I have to comment on this. Oh, and I need to introduce my policy advisor, Eduardo. He's pretty familiar with this area. He used to work with Tiger, who's stolen away. So he's been a great help. Without people like him, you know, it'd be hard for us to, you know, keep in touch with everybody. You go through him to get appointed, because otherwise the schedule would be a mess, to be very honest. So we try to create a region that works for everybody. I welcome your comments, your feedback, questions, and criticisms particularly. So.
Questions?
Sure.
Can I?
Of course.
So, we recently applied for the, Regional Bond Fund grant, I believe, Regional Trails grant.
Regional Trails, yeah.
That was out, I think it was due in January, and we were submitting for a grant for some park work along the West Side Trail Segment 1. Do you happen to know, when they're planning on announcing anything on that? Because we haven't seen anything come out afterwards.
If I remember correctly, I saw an email just a couple days ago that said we got all the grant requests in. We're reviewing them. and then we will have, council will have an update and a session to talk about them and the priorities and which ones are recommended or why some are not recommended. I haven't seen, in fact, I looked at it this morning, and I said, I haven't seen their recommendations yet. I expect it to come out within the week,
Okay,
to be very honest.
all right. Just wondering, thank you.
My question, I'll piggyback off. So our parks department is, Mike and I.
Yes.
I think it's safe to say.
And Dave.
And Dave,
Dave.
right,
Yeah.
he's not here. But one of the things that I think you touched on, right, is, I think because of our size and because of our image, right, that we are, because of our image, I think, we don't get a lot of priority. And is there, I know that there is a lens for equity as far as, right, I think we all want to promote EDI throughout the week, right? That is very important to us as a city, it's very important to Metro, and I think we all agree on that. Is there a lens of equity as far as looking at, like, for example, King City might have submitted a grant for the first time, has never been selected, versus Beaverton's, right, Parks Department probably gets a grant every year. Right? So is there any consideration of that at Metro for ensuring the distribution, right, is fair amongst the region?
There is an effort to make it fair distribution-wise. It doesn't, I wouldn't say it always works correctly.
Okay.
For example, if Beaverton or Gresham has submitted a grant and then they submit another grant to complete a project, that might get priority over a new grant from somebody else. And then it's also looked at in terms of, like I said, there's 24 areas, 24 focus areas. And and this is one of them, and they try and distribute them so that each area does get some attention, but, that doesn't mean each year you'll be, it depends, there's a lot of competition for it.
Right.
And but,
Well, I think also to make sure that we're applying, and I don't mean this one, Mike, I just mean, I know, just from personal experience previously in my work for the foundation in King City, it's also confusing of which grants are the appropriate grant for your purpose, right? And so I think, anyway, I will follow up with you guys.
Okay.
I think, learning a little bit more, because we do have some projects, in the pipeline that I think are great grant contenders and really fit the goals of the region and for Metro and for us. So, we can follow up on that.
probably the hardest thing would be, or the easiest thing would be if it's a trail segment that is already part of the regionally designated trail system. Hardest thing would be if it's a new trail, or, something like that, where it is not part of the, we have a plan that was developed a few years ago before I came on board. And if it's in that plan, even conceptually, it's much easier. If it's not, if it's a new idea, it's going to be a lot harder, or I see somewhat harder. But that doesn't mean it's not a worthwhile idea and it's not worth pushing things. And, I'd be happy to think about it and see what I can do.
Sure. Well, I appreciate that. Other questions?
That was my question too.
So I mean, just so the council knows which one that we went with the 2014 West Side Trail Plan. And our area is identified as segment 1, and it's from the Walton River up to the Beach Bend Road. And so what we asked for was for funds to do the design and engineering work, the planning, design, and engineering work for that strip. So that then possibly, I think we have bond funds that are coming out, park bond funds, that each city gets its own allocation, gets an allocation of the parks. We might be able to throw some of that money at it, and because it's a regional trail, we might be able to get some MSTIP money as well, and we might be able to pool some money to get that West Side Trail Segment 1 done as a component, get it planned, get it engineered, and hopefully get some construction. We might have to do it in phases, but we could get it started hopefully with the money that we have.
Yeah, I certainly support moving forward on that particular trail segment, because I think it's important for our region. I can't tell you exactly what the status is or how to piece together as you say, there's several different sources of potential funding. The local share, the MSTIP, and then the acquisition grant.
Right.
So,
Thank you.
okay.
Good. Other questions? Anyone on, online have any questions?
Could ask,
Lori or Smart?
Councilor Petrie or Councilor Shirley, do you have
You
any
can move the
questions?
slide up to the last one, please, or is it one just sort of a thank you slide?
No, I do not have any question. Thank you for the presentation.
Yeah, thanks for asking. And it was really interesting to hear about all the different things that Metro's involved with. So it's always good information.
Thank you for
All
the
right,
opportunity.
thank you so much, and thank you for coming tonight and enjoying our reception.
Appreciate it very much.
Appreciate you coming.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. All right, so next up is our open forum, and at this time, the council will be happy to receive any comments pertaining to items on the agenda, including questions, suggestions, complaints, and items for the future. Each person's time will be limited to 3 minutes. Do we have any participants on the line
I
tonight?
believe I have one for Viva.
Okay.
So I have Viva. Viva, I'm gonna ask you, before I click, I'm gonna just, for anybody else that's online, please go ahead and raise your hand. Or maybe put a chat in the comments, just let me know that you guys would like to talk. Thank you. Viva, you are good to go.
Thank you, Ronnie. Do you have that flyer that you could share?
The flyer.
The shred
For the
event,
shred event?
please. I will start talking if you can find it. If not, that's okay. April 30th, King City, the King City Police Department and King City Community Foundation are sponsoring a free shred event. We will be asking for canned food donations. We're also asking you to limit your shred to 2 bags, 2 grocery bags. On the canned food donation, it is going to the St. Vincent's de Paul, that is a local partner to the Oregon Food Bank. So I wanted to announce that. We're also looking for a few volunteers to help us direct traffic that day. And that is all I have to announce, but I would like to have anybody ask questions about the shred event. We're also going to follow the shred event in August with a shred and recycle dumpster event. We're shooting to be consistent that they're the last Saturday of April and the last Saturday of August, so that we can kind of have some signage done that it doesn't matter what year, you don't put the year on, you just say the last Saturday, and then we can use them. But Ronnie and I have both been very busy, so we had grandiose ideas of getting more banners and things done, and the old getting too much, committing more hours than you possibly have ran into my way. And I apologize for that. And that's,
Ms. Eva, what is the time of the shred event?
it is 9 to noon.
9 to noon, and is that City Hall, correct?
Yes. And Ronnie told me how
Wow.
we direct people there is we kind of have them come down Majestic. They come down Crown, they drop their stuff off, and then they go out to 116th. Did I get that right, Ronnie?
Yeah, so it'd be right where the police cars are. It'd be like what we did 2.5 years ago. Parked right here, they'll just go around on Majestic, on the Crown, and then come back out. It was so much easier to do it that way, and people came and,
Great,
yeah, it was really successful.
wonderful.
So we
I'm
just need a
very
few
much
people
looking forward to
directing
that.
traffic along the way.
We need a few people to direct traffic. Do we have anyone to volunteer here in the room for Viva? If not, we will ask for citizens to sign up, and Viva, perhaps you, in the chat, you could put your email address so that people can email you for, volunteering.
I sure can.
Wonderful.
Lisa, I would totally volunteer, but I'm already volunteering at Deer Creek that morning for an event, so I'm so sorry. I
That's
appreciate
fine.
you, all your hard work.
Oh, thank you, Shauna.
The day,
And-
so April 30th from 9 to noon. And, Ms. Viva, I have, one son has a soccer game at 9 and the other has a soccer game at noon.
I knew we'd get-
Meantime,
I was prepared, Jamie, for you to have that someday, that you're going to be at kids' things. I believe I have a couple other people that have not turned me down yet. They did promise me, but you never know. So I'm sure we will get volunteers, and I'm sure we will have a good line. Ronnie and I are both going to be posting this on different social media, and I am going to be sending out also our business roundtable invitation to everybody that we do. The King City Community Foundation sponsors, and I'll write this in the chat. Noon, the last Tuesday, I can't spell, of the month. And this was something that Ken Gibson did start. And we are continuing and hoping to grow. We're getting a few different people every meeting. So we've kind of added a different attendant and got to contact a new one every month. And
we appreciate you organizing the shred event. We appreciate you organizing the business roundtable. We encourage businesses, either in King City or doing business with the community of King City to attend on the last Tuesday of the month at noon by Zoom. And that information is shared in the Zoom chat. You can always find the information on probably the website as well. So I thank you, Viva. I thank you, Ronnie, for organizing. That is wonderful. Do we have any other?
I don't know yet, but, just for the record, Micah, Councilor Polson has just joined us.
Wonderful. Welcome, Micah.
I have Mr. Myers. Give me just a minute here. Mr. Myers, can you hear us?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
We can hear you.
Okay, Mike Meyer, 16950 Southwest Meyer Lane, Tiger, Oregon. I didn't see it on the agenda. There was some discussion before. Not sure if there's been any action about a blood drive. Once again, in the local news, I saw this last week that there's a need for blood. Just like Jamie Fender, I had a call at my home 4 months ago and I had a heart attack. And I've been in need of blood from my triple bypass. And I think it's very important for our community to support local American Red Cross and other entities that collect blood and provide it to our local hospitals. And right along with the TVFNR, I think it's a responsibility for all of us to participate in that. I'm not sure if there's any desire to continue with this idea, but I would highly encourage King City to promote a blood drive, and I'd be willing to help out in any way possible on something like that. So open for discussion. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thanks, Mike. So Ronnie, I know that you're currently working on getting our blood drive.
I am currently-
Organize, give us a little update.
Yeah, so I'm currently working on it. I just need to sit down and right now I'm playing phone tag with the director over there that helps with the getting the bus down here. It's kind of tough trying to wear all these hats and try to get these events going too, so.
Well, it sounds like Mike Meyer has volunteered,
Well,
Ronnie, to
and
help you. So
Mike, you
offline, I think the two of you can connect, and if you need some additional help, then maybe Mike can help out with you. But
Absolutely.
yes, Mike, that we are committed to doing the blood drive, and we will absolutely get that organized. I also recently saw that there was quote unquote a King City blood drive organized by Starbucks over at the well, we call it the King City Starbucks, but of course, technically it isn't Tigard, but they have organized a blood drive as well over there. However, we obviously will still do our own blood drive, and, so we look forward, Ronnie, to getting updated on when and where it's gonna happen soon.
Mayor Fender, is there a way, Mike, can you still hear us all right?
Yes.
Are you available perhaps, like this coming Wednesday, like next Wednesday?
Yeah, it's council meeting, or, commissioner meeting,
Oh, dang. Well, that might be a good chance maybe afterwards.
that's the 27th, right, next, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah, that'd be great.
I would be available after
You could
that.
just,
We didn't hear you, what did you say?
I would be available after that meeting, yes.
Great, okay.
And maybe we
We
can
might,
sit down.
we might snag you for a little assistance after the meeting, so. All right, anyone else who would like to
I
make a comment?
don't see any other hands up.
If there's any other individuals on the line that would like to make a comment, question, or, I guess that's it, really a comment or have a question. There's not really many other options. Please raise your hand now so that we can put you on, the record. We'll just wait couple seconds to see if there's anyone else.
So Carol, Barry, Dan, Greg, Carl, do you guys have anything to say? Go ahead and raise your hand. Digital hand, I should say, that's the only one I can see right now. Digital hands, please.
All right, so we'll go ahead and move on. So, we tonight have no, unfinished business, so we will move on to.
Counselor,
Oh, I'm sorry.
wait, I make a suggestion, please. Can we go back up to section 3 and approve the minutes, please?
We approve.
Oh, we did?
Uh-huh. We approve that. All right, so now we'll move on to new business, and the first new business, is to discuss and approve or disapprove the financials. We'll listen to Mike Weston on his staff recommendation.
I recommend it for the financials. I did ask Mira for an update. Really, there's no, big surprises on this. We're pretty much within, and we're doing the supplemental, that's part of this packet, adjust for any overages that we've seen along the way or any, excess revenues that we saw come in. We did get our audit back. You all have a copy of that, and you can see, our beginning fund balance was roughly right around 2.2 million, our ending fund balance was right around 2.2 million, so that will carry forward. And you'll see that kind of highlighted here, especially in the December financials. That's an update. Expenditures. Our expenditures were lower than what we had budgeted throughout the year. We were sitting pretty well. Target here is about 50% for December, and that's the first one that you'll see in your packet, I believe, or it's backwards, but you guys have November 1st, or you guys have December 1st?
Are you talking about on the agenda?
No, in your packet.
This one, in this one?
Oh, no, this packet, right?
This one?
Your-
Oh, it's in the front, I think.
Is it this one? Okay, hold on.
All right.
I see November and December.
Hold on, I don't have a copy.
There's really nothing exciting. There's no big expenditures that you haven't already been apprised of. We aren't doing any big drop like what we did last time where we cut out $140,000 of bad debt. Otherwise, passport revenues are up. That's been reflected. We do have, everything else is pretty much in line. There's nothing too exciting. Is there any questions on any of the funds in particular that I can maybe address for you? There's one thing that we need to get addressed, and that's in the ARPA fund, the American Rescue Plan Act fund. There was a typo there under the personnel services. There was a $26,815 entry on that. That needs to get pulled out of that and applied to the general fund. What's that?
What month was that for?
December. And so that was improperly put into
So what, I'm sorry, Mike, can you, where, I'm looking at our December,
December
is
page,
it right?
The next
22.
last page.
Okay.
yeah, like the next to last page of the December financials. So that 26,000 needs to get moved back into the general fund. Our accountant moved it over into this fund, and we don't know why, so.
Oh, okay, so 26,815.
Yeah,
815,
so
88,
we've
okay.
contacted our accountant and requested him to fix his error, so,
Got it, okay.
I have a question about the ARPA funds.
sure.
Did we ever go over exactly how those were distributed? I know that we kind of generally had a conversation about it, but I'm not sure if I missed that or not. Did we?
It was all a part of that resolution order that the council had approved on how that was going to get distributed exactly. All those disbursements were going out, and we're still working on the, eligible employer disbursement. So that grant's hitting the, road here in the next few days, hopefully. You'll see it posted on our webpage. And, hopefully we'll start entertaining those applications. So possibly as early as May, next council meeting, we could have like a work session where we sit down and evaluate the applications from eligible employers and getting those funds out to their employees. That'll be the next disbursement piece.
Another question. I have another question.
Sure.
Not about the ARPA, but about, just the general, like, expenditures. It says on the city council line that the adopted budget is $95,000. What's that for? Oh, you have? Oh, okay.
I all the time.
Yeah.
I think, is it for things like mailing?
It's for, so each account line has multiple things inside it. So there's probably, there's like 15,000 for, public outreach, right? There's, printing, there's office, there's admin, there's travel, there is, all the things that are associated with conferences, all that is in the council, fund. So you also have, staff time that's associated to deal with the council itself. So those funds, 25% here, or 15% there. You can figure that out when you look at the budget. So when we just do the financials, we're just at, it's a 10,000-foot elevation look. It's not, I don't have the detail of each line item in front of me. But we can get the line item, like we can dive into that, and you would have like a full list of every accounting piece that's in that fund, right? So for each thing that you see here, there's like 3 or 4 pages worth of pen, paper, ink, travel, water, data, internet, phone, your iPad. All that stuff is accounted for under the council tab, as well as it is under each one of the tabs. So if you go to park fund, it's the same thing, gas, fertilizer for the field, mowing, all that stuff. Each thing is categorically called out in our budget document. So if you have your budget document, you can just go pull that up and pull up that fund, and you'll be able to see all the different things that are associated with that particular fund. I don't have that right in front of me.
Yeah, so I guess the adopted budget's 95,000, but year-to-date, only 5,000 has been spent, and we're at 50%. I'm just wondering, is there like a big amount that's being spent later, or do we have
I
like?
think a lot of it was public outreach. So you're going to see a big chunk come out because of the meeting here coming up in May. So we have the public outreach meeting coming up in May. So that's going to be about, $15,000, $20,000 right there. You have, typically the mayor's conference. You also have LOC. You have, what else was there? LOC and, the other conference. I can't remember what the other conference is. But there's like at least 3 conferences that we, traditionally sign up for. and so those are accounted for in there. So I think that 5,000 that's already come out is conferences that we've already hit so far. And then, you'll see more coming out here in the very near future. But we do budget really conservatively, so we imagine worst case scenario, and hopefully we fall underneath that.
Other questions? Questions from anyone from the counselors on Zoom? So Counselor Foley, Counselor Petrie, Counselor Paulson, any questions over the budget? Financial, excuse me, financial. We're not gonna open that can of worms at this meeting tonight.
Well, we will.
No, not for me.
All right, so at this time.
No question,
I'll
none from
make a
me.
motion. Oh, okay. Making a motion.
I'd like to approve financials.
For a second? Okay,
Both sets, November and December?
Yeah, please.
And all those in favor?
Who was their second?
Shauna.
Gotcha.
All those in the room, say aye. Aye. All those on the Zoom, raise your hand.
I've got 3, Counselor Paulson, Counselor Tully, and Counselor Petrie.
Great. The financials are approved. All right, moving on to resolution R-2022-01, a resolution allowing a supplemental budget. This is to discuss resolution R-2022-01, allowing a supplemental budget increase and a decrease pursuant to ORS 294.338, providing for the receipt, appropriations, and expenditures of unexpected funds. The city manager will make a recommendation and discuss.
So we are trying to bring in some help up front. So we are going to need to change some of our budget line items. We've put some things in here. Our postage was way higher. That's the first line that you'll see there. That has to do with passports. So, we are way over on, we're basically spending about $1,000 a week on postage. And so that, of course, is paid for by the, customer, but we still have to budget for that. So it's kind of a budget neutral, element, but there is a little bit that we garner from that.
You want me to go through that process a little bit?
I mean, if you could just touch on.
Yeah, so
the-
10,000 foot elevator.
Yeah.
All right, so, when somebody comes in for a passport really quickly, they have 2 options. They have $35 to pay for that fee, that's part of the first postage real quick, okay? If they want it mailed to the U.S. Department of State faster, they get $35 plus the $38.78 for overnight mail. That is a 40% markup from what it is over at the post office because of our staff time. And it also is cheaper than other places. I can't say the name because, but anyway, so that's kind of the process for that.
We also have a new officer in, this year. So, Kevin, Pitillo, thank you for the last name, is joining us. I should know that. I've heard it a million times, but for some reason my mind was blanking. Kevin has joined us. He'll be hitting the academy here, next month, hopefully. And, probably hitting the street in like December. But, you know, we're on the path. So, that feels good. We are also, came across a grant to potentially, look at the possibility of acquiring another officer through grant that will cover the first 3 years. So we're gonna try to pursue that, and if successful, we'll try to hire another officer. And because right now, you heard us talk, we're in this, there's about a 3-year gap between now and the time that we start seeing some of the growth happen out west that we're anticipating, right? So if this grant gets us over that growing pain hump and we can get one or 2 officers in during that time span, it relieves a lot of pressure off of our current staff. the first 4 or 5 lines that you see right here also are associated with bringing in a full-time office administrator, like a office manager, administrator that's going to be basically working passports and doing accounts receivable, A&R for finance. So it's kind of like finance clerk and passports. It's a flux of people that we are getting with passports these days. You can walk in here any given day and you'll see, 50, 60 people in the lobby here, and we're jam-packed. So, trying to process that stuff through, we are running short on manpower, which basically means that then we fall short on other areas we can't take. So hopefully bringing in that additional staff member will relieve some of that pressure, and we can start getting some work caught up, and start getting our head in more important elements, more important things. So, anyways, that's what you see on the first side here, and that's the basis for this supplemental.
So on the very first line there for salaries and wages, $6,500.
Yeah.
What length of time is that for?
Like a 1 month to 2 month period. We figure by the time, because you're looking at, it's April right now.
Yeah.
By the time we bring them in and get them onboarded, you're looking at the end of May, early June, and that's the end of the fiscal year.
Oh, I see. Gotcha.
So, you really only have like a month and a half of time there that you're accounting for.
Okay.
So the real hit will come next year.
Right, for the next budget cycle.
Next fiscal year.
But we should be able to increase revenues with processing passports.
Well, it's percentages, right? So each employee that we have currently, portion of their salary is covered by the passport revenues that we were making before, right? So if you looked at the passport revenues over the years, when I first started here, they were probably at about 40,000 to 50,000. And then the next year, they were like 50 to 60,000. So we hired somebody. And then the year after that, they were like 60 to 70,000. So we said, well, maybe we'll hire another person because we were in a position where we needed more people. But the passport revenues themselves will probably only support like one full-time employee, right? But we split it up between the 4 that we have. Because everyone carries, like Ronnie said, everyone wears many hats, everyone's doing multiple jobs. This is one of the services that our city offers, which isn't very many, and that's why we offer it. Because we do need to offer more services if we want to make more revenue.
Question on the passport. So how much do we mark up the mail?
40%, yeah.
For the rush fee.
Yeah.
And that rush fee, is that also dictated by the federal government, how much we can charge?
No. As long as the way they have it written is as long as it's reasonable. So reasonable is what Mira and I came to conclusion with 40%. Want to be less than certain places, but we want to cover our time.
Right.
We figured postal service is $27, I think. So,
Okay.
yeah.
I think 45% seems reasonable.
But you gotta think about it too, is, so they're already, passports in general are expensive.
Right.
So a lot of people have been kind of waiting until the last minute to get their stuff, so now they're scrambling, so, yeah. So they're paying the expedite fee, which is $60. We don't see that one for the city. We only see the $35, which is set by the U.S. Department of State. We cannot raise that unless they tell us we can.
Right.
Do they have an option to take their packet and sell, or?
No. Well, yes and no. So it depends on if it's a renewal. If it's a renewal, we've been getting a lot of renewals come in here. All we tell them is we can just renew you passport and sell you postage. And we've been selling a lot of postage for those renewals. So that's where.
Do we make any profit on that?
Yeah. So depending on what service they want. So again, if it's just priority mail, it's $11 and it's 40% of whatever, the postal service.
Yeah, so we charge like, I think it's $38 and
Well, so we got two services that we do. We don't do first class postage here, you know, the little stamps.
Right.
We don't want to go down that rabbit hole. But we do Priority Mail and Priority Mail Express. Priority Mail is like $11 and some change. The Priority Mail Express is $38 and some change.
Okay.
All right, we've been doing a lot of those.
So maybe percentage, anything.
So,
But we looked at a convenience fee was what I wanted to find out if we could charge.
So basically that 40% is the convenience fee and our staff time. Because mailing it out is 10 minutes at the most. So.
I would advocate for keeping it. I want to make sure that, it's as equitable as possible.
Yeah, 40% is where where Mira, Sam, and I feel comfortable with saying equitable for everybody.
Isn't there,
Trust me, the word, I'm sorry?
sorry to interrupt, isn't there like they can bring in their own postage thing?
They can bring in their own postage too if they wanted to. So we tell them,
We've got a little.
It's like a.
right,
Well, that's the thing, right, it's a convenience that
Right.
you can go.
So we always tell them,
I'm sorry for it.
right, we always tell them, yeah, we can sell you postage here, but we're gonna tell you the truth, it's 40% higher than here. You can go somewhere else, it's a little bit higher there, or you can go to downtown Tigard and get your postage there and come back.
Right.
Either way, we don't care, I mean, we're here to help. A lot of the times they say, I'm here, let's do it now.
Yeah, because it's convenient.
Yeah. So 40% is, 40% I think is good. Plus 35 for.
Yeah, market, you know.
Yeah,
Whereas-
yeah.
All right.
And then trust me,
Listen, I am dedicated to this city to finding any additional revenues I can,
I think in the vending machine.
Ooh,
Yeah.
we absolutely need a vending machine.
What, the new machine
With
that
all those people,
Yeah.
or a little coffee stand,
Yeah.
or maybe I'll start this.
That's a good call.
we can do what Tiger does, they have a coffee stand in their city hall, or,
Absolutely.
don't they, something like that?
Yeah.
Like a-
Not a bad idea.
All right, so
I love it.
a vending machine,
Yeah.
absolutely a great idea.
I'll go buy it tomorrow.
Right.
Done.
All right, okay, back on track. All right,
So,
Did we approve that? We have to vote on that?
all right, we're gonna, we'll
No,
have
I'm
that.
curious.
No.
I'm not serious. I will go buy one tomorrow and have it.
And so we,
Should we?
No.
all right.
All right, we're gonna add that discussion to the agenda. Mark, we're adding that to your council update, okay?
So we have so we have a resolution here.
Yeah.
Is there any
Is
other
there-
questions?
Any other questions so that we can? Okay. Anyone on the phone have a question, or excuse me, on the Zoom? Anyone have a question or a comment? Okay, then I will entertain a motion.
I have a motion, to approve resolution R 2022-01, the resolution allowing a supplemental budget.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Sean, a second. All those in the room say aye. Aye. It's unanimous. All those on Zoom, please raise your hand.
I've got Counselor Ocholi, Counselor Petrie, and there's Counselor Paulson.
Motion carried. All right, up next is the Kingston Terrace Master Plan briefing, and I don't see Steve here tonight.
He's here, he's on the.
Oh, that's because I can't see him, but he's here. Wonderful, Steve. I have a suggestion for next, is there any way to get those people on Zoom
On one of the.
on one of the, for next time? We don't
I
have to do,
can't do it right now, no.
okay, right now, no, is that,
I'll work
can we, yeah, can we talk about for another time?
That'd be great.
That would be easy for us to see. So, all right, Steve, I will hand it over to you for your presentation.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Fender and councilors. It has been quite some time since I've had the opportunity to brief you on the Kingston Terrace Master Plan process. We were well underway with the project when in about a year ago, we identified the need to conduct a study of transportation alternatives for the Kingston Terrace area. So we had completed our study of current conditions. We had established goals and objectives and proposed land use concepts. We were kind of getting started in the master plan development phase. And for several reasons, we decided it was very important that we do an alternatives analysis of potential transportation connections in the Kingston Terrace area. And the results of this study will help us in terms of providing really the backbone of our land use concepts for the master plan. And it also helps us satisfy one of the conditions that Metro placed on the grant funding in terms of the Bankston easement. So since we paused the master plan project last, I want to say in the May-June timeframe, we spent the last year really, or a little less than a year, scoping, advocating for the need for additional funding and working with Metro to secure that additional funding for this analysis. So we're back underway conducting this analysis. We anticipate that it will take us into the summer months to complete the transportation analysis, but at the same time, we will be continuing our master plan development concurrently. And we still anticipate getting to the adoption process in the fall. We did just have meetings, the information I'm presenting to you tonight, we also presented to our stakeholder advisory committee and our technical advisory committee on April 4th and 5th. And I'll mention again at the end of the meeting, but we have a public meeting scheduled for May 12th. So really the focus tonight is on this east-west circulation study. The first thing that we needed to do is determine what our evaluation, we're now calling them factors. We heard from some of our committee members that they preferred the term factors versus criteria. So evaluation factors for the study. And what we wanted to do is show factors that really help us differentiate between the different alternatives. There's a lot of things that you could evaluate, but we really wanted to focus in on what's going to help us differentiate between the different alternatives that we study. We started by building on the vision and goals of both the draft TSP and the previously adopted concept plan. So we now are looking at key criteria from categories that should look familiar from the concept plan, in particular, land use and community design, mobility, public utilities and services, natural resources, and cost and implementation considerations. Included in your packet was our draft memorandum that explained how we came up with those different categories and, excuse me, listed some of the factors that we'll be using to evaluate these different alternatives. Excuse me. Again, some of the evaluation will be quantitative whenever possible. Some will be qualitative, and it'll, again, really focused on the differences between these alternatives and order of magnitude effects. So we had proposed using a number scoring system. We heard back from our advisory committees that they preferred that we, again, refer to them as factors. And we're now going to be using more of a empty circle, half full circle symbols to do in the analysis. And we'll be using those to compare the alternatives. And then our primary objective is to identify the key multimodal east-west corridors in the Kingston Terrace Master Plan area. Again, I believe in your packets for this meeting, we included the memo that really details that information. So in terms of identifying what alternatives we're going to study, we have this process, and I should mention that Ann Sylvester from SCJ Alliance, our transportation consultant, is really leading this portion of the project, this analysis. So what we've done is we started with numerous alternatives. We went back to the concept plan, just various different planning efforts, and looked at all the different proposed alignments of different east-west connections have been created over the past, 10 years. And there's a lot of them. We then conducted an initial screening to eliminate any alternatives that just simply cannot accomplish some of our key objectives. We'll then be carrying the viable alternatives forward, and I'll be presenting those towards the end of the presentation tonight, into the analysis, and hopefully then reach a preferred alternative at the end of the process. And we reminded our committee members, and we'll be reminding the public, that while we are working to identify these preferred alignments, exact alignments don't really get determined until the time of development. So nothing's final until they start putting pavement on the ground. So some of those key objectives, we wanted to make sure we were supporting the land uses and urban design framework that was identified in the concept plan, and including a lot of connections to accommodate bicycle and pedestrian travel. Integrating the current existing city of King City by providing at least one continuous multimodal connection to serve community traffic. Hopefully providing more than one east-west alignment so we can spread out the traffic and again, provide those convenient walking and bicycle routes. This also helps us reduce miles of vehicle miles traveled and enhances sustainability. I'll show a little graphic later, but we want to be working with the topography of the area and avoiding to the greatest degree we can high value natural resources, and then accommodating other needs like public utilities and particularly sanitary sewer. So here is our process where again, we eliminate options that don't meet our basic goals and principles. We then take a short list of alternatives and see which are going to support our planned land uses and development patterns in the Kingston Terrace area. We will come out with a recommended alternative or alternatives and incorporate those into the master plan. So again, some of the high level criteria that we were looking at are, I apologize, this is a little bit redundant, but consistency with the concept plan principles like connectivity, pedestrian and bicycle connections, other multimodal travel and land use patterns, multiple east-west alignments to spread out the traffic, separation from Beef Bend Road so that it really does provide some alternative to Beef Bend Road, and we don't want to cluster the roads too close together because they won't serve that purpose. Working with the topography and accommodating, again, the needs of public utilities. So these are just a few of the prior proposed road networks that we found from studies throughout the years. So we went through all of those and found several that we wanted to focus on after we eliminated some of the others. So if you look at this proposed network, it does things like meshing with the proposed street system. These light white dotted lines kind of fits in with that proposed network from the concept plan. These routes offer redundancy and separation from Beef Bend Road. They provide ravine crossings and avoid potential impacts on the natural resources and provide connections to the existing city. I mentioned topography earlier. We looked closely and noted that the further south you go to a large degree, the more significant these ravine crossings are. A little bit further north, we kind of have more moderate ravine crossings. And then further north yet, we avoid most of the ravine crossings, just hitting the northern points of some of them here. And then again, wanting to accommodate, this is a prior map of possible sanitary sewer service. So again, we wanted to integrate and find an optimal system to work with the sanitary sewer. And then of course, considering natural resources. So we considered all the inputs of those earlier options. We wanted to identify 2 to 4 alternatives to carry forward in the analysis. Again, the exact alignment of the alternatives are not fixed. That will be determined in the next phase of the study and then through the development process. So that brings us here. These are the alternatives that were presented to the Stakeholder Advisory Committee and the Technical Advisory Committee. These 4 routes, you've got route number 1, further south, this blue dotted line that moves across the ravines from east to west. You have these middle routes, the purple one, number 2, kind of starts in the middle in terms of north-south, kind of halfway between the river and Beef Bend, and then curves down to the south. Number 3, the orange dotted line, again, starts about halfway between Beef Bend Road and the river, and then splits with one option heading to the south and one heading straight across to Capulet. And then Route 4, the furthest north, which moves just a little ways south of Beef Bend Road, and again proposes 2 possible routes to continue east-west and cross into King City. I'll mention that the Stakeholder Advisory Committee recommended that we remove alternative number 1 from the analysis because it's going to be highly unlikely or that it'll be feasible just due to the costs and difficulties of crossing all these ravines just north of the river. We shared that with the Technical Advisory Committee, and the Technical Advisory Committee suggested that we keep that alternative in our analysis and let it succeed or fail based on its own merits, especially because they thought even if it fails as a multimodal route that includes bicycles, pedestrians, and vehicles, it might carry forward into the master plan as just a bicycle and pedestrian connection. So again, we are going to be proposing or presenting these to the broader public at a public meeting on May 12th, and we'll try to get some additional input online. No final decisions have been made on what alternatives are going to be carried through into the analysis, but for now, we anticipate it's the ones that you see here. So next steps, again, public meeting on May 12th. I understand that is a hybrid meeting, so I'll be there in person, but people will be able to participate online. We will also prepare an online questionnaire for folks who aren't able to participate in that meeting, so they can weigh in on if there are any other alternatives or different alternatives that should be included in the study. We'll conduct that analysis into starting towards the end of May and all through June. And then the Stakeholder Advisory Committee and Technical Advisory Committee and public will do another round of public involvement to engage those folks in early August to present the results of the analysis and recommendations for going forward. So that is the end of my presentation. Just wanted to bring you all up to speed on where we are in the process, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
I have a few questions, but I'll leave it to others. So, Micah, let's go with you first because it's been noted your hand is up. And you might be on mute because we can't hear you.
He raised his hand to vote, wasn't it?
Oh.
Oh, okay. So, Micah, never mind if you can hear me. Other questions, we'll do questions on Zoom first. So anyone have questions on Zoom?
Well, Councilor, Mayor Fender, sorry. Format that we're in right now is the council, an update for the council.
No, that's what I meant. I meant any counselors on Zoom. Sorry. Let's be clear. Any counselors on Zoom, please give us any updates. All right, ask your question, sorry. I do have a question, but I'll wait. So, all right, anyone, we're gonna move into the room here. Anyone have questions? Okay. council questions. There's no one else in the room here except John, and I can see him, and he does not have a question.
I just want to confirm that the meeting on May 12th, is at 6 PM, is that correct?
I understand, yeah.
So 6 PM, May 12th.
And it'll be a hybrid?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
it'll be hybrid. Those were actually mailed out today, that notices, so all of King City, all of Rivermead, all of everybody around everybody 600 feet around King City and the UGB area will be getting notices. If you did not receive them, let me know, because I made sure everybody was on the list.
Who's gonna be leading the meeting?
Steve.
Okay.
It is a
Mr. Faust will lead the meeting.
Okay, all right.
And then what's the expectation of council?
nothing.
What's that?
Are we supposed to come?
You're welcome to come as a private citizen, but we don't necessarily want a quorum.
Right, that was my question.
Okay.
Put out a notice or something?
Right. So,
We just do, head
I'll
count and identify it.
I will probably do a possible notice of quorum for that day, just in case.
Yeah.
Just,
That's good.
but for the most part, it is only for the public to come in and give their two cents and
Okay.
for the city to listen.
Mostly flies on the wall.
I think it'd be good for us to be there, since you,
I will definitely do that.
A, to hear the information, B, to hear the public's response, and hopefully not, to listen.
Right, okay. So quorum is 4, so if I have 3, perfect, 4.
We'll probably have
But-
more
but-
than 4. So I think sending out a possible, notice of quorum, I think is a good, is smart. So Steve, this is Mayor Fender. I just have a kind of a question. So, as you know, we had a tumultuous summer involving, our planning process. So I'd like to get a really good understanding of what the outreach, plan is, one, for this meeting, but then 2, kind of going forward. So I know that Ronnie just said that he mailed out notices. What other efforts are going to be had to ensure that people know about, this meeting?
Yeah, thank you for that question. I had a slide that I shared with our SAC and TAC that went through all of the community engagement activities to date and what we have going forward. But let me just, hopefully it's not too dizzying. I'm going to go back up here. So, to date, we've had 2 rounds of community engagement. Our SAC and TAC, well, they've now met 3 times. We had 1 virtual public meeting during our first round of engagement. We had an online open house during our second round of engagement. Those materials were the online open house was also translated into Spanish. We also have been working with some community-based partners to reach out to the Korean-speaking community. Some of that went on pause when the project went on pause, but we got some feedback at this stage from the Korean-speaking community. We did conduct 10 stakeholder interviews previously as well, and we pretty much offered it up to anyone who was interested, and talked to a number of people, including property owners. Thanks to interested community members, there were also several tours of the study area to get a closer look at the ravines throughout the area. So that was very much appreciated for the community members and property owners that helped pull those site tours together. In terms of public notification, and Ronnie can help me out if I forget anything, but we do have a project website, kingcitymasterplan.com, that has been updated regularly with all of the pertinent meeting information. We also recorded the last 2 SAC and TAC meetings from April 4th and 5th. Those recordings are posted to the website. There is an email list that we get email. Ronnie has a list, and then we get emails through the website that we forward to him. And so that group received notification, not just of the recent meetings, but also kind of throughout that pause in the process. We sent out several messages every couple of months just to let people know that we didn't disappear and things were going to continue. We were just on a pause. we tried to keep people up to date. Also, I think social media, I think the city does some social media. And then we've been sending out several postcards to make sure, like Ronnie mentioned, to make sure that people stay informed. So here we are in this round of community engagement. We will have this next round of community engagement when we have the preferred alternative from the transportation analysis. And not shown here, I need to update this graphic, but once we have a draft master plan to share, we'll have one more round of community engagement before we start the adoption process with Planning Commission and City Council. So Ronnie, if I missed anything, please chime in, but hopefully that answers your question, Mayor.
The only notice that has not gone out yet was the legal notice,
Okay.
which I believe Steve and I are still waiting for Clean Water Services to put their 2 cents in.
Yeah, thanks, Ronnie.
And
I
I
should have mentioned that the May 12th meeting, we're also it's kind of a joint meeting with Clean Water Services. They're helping us. They're doing their own work in the area on sanitary and stormwater issues, which, ties right into with what we're doing. So they're gonna participate in the May 12th meeting as well to share some information.
Oh, that's great. And I have, so for those listening in and those in the room, although you should all know, the last Saturday of each month, I conduct my mayor's morning where I am at coffee time from 9 to 10:30. It's an informal way to come have a chat with me, bring your concerns, ask questions, come and just have a coffee with me, come hang out. So what I will do also, Ronnie, is if I can get a few flyers made up of or some type of, maybe postcards that I can take with me to the mayor's corner or mayor's morning, then we can do that. And then let's just make sure that we get the meeting notice on kind of all our social, and then we can everyone here can kind of share it and make sure that everyone gets along. So
I have a quick question.
Sure.
Steve, what will the format of the May 12th meeting be?
Great question. Still figuring that out exactly, but my kind of working assumption right now is that I will make a presentation, or actually Ann Sylvester, our transportation consultant, will give a presentation similar to the one we just gave you. This was a little bit abbreviated compared to the one we gave to the 2 committees. So there'll be a little more information in the presentation. I think we'll also give Clean Water Services an opportunity to give a presentation, and then likely break out into more of an open house with stations, possibly one for folks to talk to folks from Clean Water Services, and another where they can look at maps and we can and the evaluation factors and talk about those things. So that's my working format for the public meeting right now. That makes it hard in a hybrid meeting for folks participating virtually to participate in that open house portion of the meeting, which is why we'll also have an online questionnaire. So if people want to sign off to the meeting when we start the open house, they can do so and take the questionnaire, or they can wait. Or they can take the questionnaire but stay on the meeting and potentially listen in. Or yeah, I think it will probably be a situation where they'll want to sign off and provide their comments via the questionnaire.
And Mike, do we have any capacity concerns? Thinking of all the people that were at the park.
Well, we can handle upwards 50 to 100 in here and in the lobby.
Do we want to? I guess is my question.
Well, it's in May, so hopefully weather's a little better. We are hoping that it's a little better, maybe not snow and hail the same day, and, I'm not too concerned with it at this point in time.
We can push outside.
If we need to
We
be
can push
outside,
outside
we can push outside, if there really is, or we can provide masks and,
Okay.
right, I think there's,
Hundreds of people show up.
if we have hundreds of people show up,
Okay.
but.
Well, it's gonna be, they can go online too.
But they certainly can go online, those concerns. Obviously, we request that anyone having symptoms, please do not come here in person, please stay home. So,
I mean, typically we had, I think the biggest showing that we had was at Deer Creek Elementary on the very first open house that we did on this.
mhm.
And I think we had probably about 12 tables, and each table had about 10, so about 120 people.
Yeah.
But the numbers have steadily decreased until now there's a pretty solid number that still attends,
Mhm.
but it's not that big, 120 to 150 people showing up every time.
I hope we get a good turnout, though. I think this is a good reboot of these efforts, and I hope we get some good engagement and show, right, we took a pause to really dig into these alternatives. I hope, our work speaks for the commitment that we are to, that we have to residents and their concerns, and, hopefully they'll come out.
Yeah, we've had great showings, online surveys and, throughout the open houses and all the public outreach. We've actually had pretty good showings in a lot of these events, so.
Yeah,
That's positive to get that feedback, and as long as we can keep it on the positive side and not the.
But Chief's gonna be there with us.
Yeah. Will you be there?
All right.
Will we be allowing outside presentations or just our presentation?
What do you mean by outside presentation?
Like, displays or anything like that?
This is in our city hall.
Yeah.
Okay.
They can put when it's time, they can put their public comment in.
Other questions? Any other comments before we move on? I want to just, one thing that just came up, during this, which I think we need to kind of make clear going forward, since this is our first hybrid Zoom, in-person council meeting. I did see that there was a lot of chat. For those participants on the phone, please note that your chat comments are not official recorded statements. Here, we are not participating with anyone. We can't even see your chat. So while the chat function is open, if anyone is making comments in the chat, that they then assume that we're all reading or it's being put into some record somewhere, it's not. And I think it's probably good as we go forward to kind of remind everyone at the beginning of the meeting, which I will start doing at the next time. But all right, we have item D, which we've added to the agenda, which is not on your official agenda. Item D is going to be discussion of adding two observants here in King City. So one, we had previously discussed that we wanted to adopt the observance of Juneteenth here in King City. We've kind of had those discussions before. We just need to officially have the resolution to make it copacetic. And then the second one, item to discuss is the observance of Gibson Day, which is October 21. And that just happens to be former Mayor Gibson's birthday, which is why we chose that date. Tonight, for those on the line and not here with us in person, we had a ceremony for Mayor Gibson tonight to thank him for all his years of dedication to the city. And I think this is a nice way to end those celebrations, is to hopefully have a discussion about Gibson Day and put it into practice. So let's start with Juneteenth first. So with Juneteenth, we need a resolution. Do we have the resolution now, or do you just want us to make a motion to send you off to do one to come back to us?
Just direct staff to do it.
So we do that?
We did
Yeah,
I think we did a proclamation when Mayor Gibson was here to recognize Juneteenth as an official holiday.
Great.
I think what Mayor Fender is talking about is having it as an observed holiday.
Meaning we check City Hall. Therefore, it means that we have, it's an official holiday for the city staff and in further observance of Juneteenth.
And I believe that's what Mayor Gibson wanted to do previously, but we just had to there's union agreement and stuff like that, so
Okay.
we would, if that is, so that's why we brought it up
Right.
today, so that the council can consider that as an observed holiday, or if that's something that the council wants to pursue, then what we can do is send a letter to the union that the city council and administration would like to consider offering Juneteenth as an additional observed holiday. And if there are no objections on the union side, then we can do that.
Thank you for clarifying what I meant, because that is exactly what I meant. Like Councilor Moore, I also thought we had already done this, so, I don't know if there's much discussion about it. I'm happy to entertain any discussion, but otherwise, I'll just take a motion on, with a couple questions, okay.
Would that have to be a resolution because it's a policy?
That's what I said, yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to make
Are
sure.
other cities doing this? I think
Yeah.
I've heard of it.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
And it is now a federal holiday, so federal buildings are also.
Portland, Beaverton, Fire, but-
So how will we word this motion? This is not a motion to accept a resolution because we don't have one. It's a
Right.
motion to direct staff to start the
Draft
process.
resolution.
Draft
Draft
resolution,
resolution.
present it next month.
Make a motion to draft a resolution to observe Juneteenth as a holiday, paid holiday,
Observed holiday.
observed holiday,
Do I have a second?
observed, recognized, paid.
We have a motion and a second, for everyone in the room, please, oh, wait, sorry. Call for a vote, yes, we are gonna call for a vote, so everyone in the room, please, those who approve, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, and those on Zoom, please raise your hand.
Counselor Petrie, Counselor Paulson, and Counselor Schultz. So it's unanimous.
Unanimous, thank you. All right, so the second, we move on to, Gibson Day. For that, we simply need a proclamation by the council. It will not be an observed holiday, meaning City Hall will not close on October 21st. However, we will find a way to celebrate it in, our special way in King City, if it so passes. So, do we have any questions or discussion on observing Gibson Day in the use of observance in the unofficial manner? Let's say celebrating, creating and celebrating Gibson Day on the 21st of October.
Is it just gonna be Gibson Day or Ken Gibson Day?
Well, I guess that's our discussion, so what do we think? First, does anyone, have strong opinions against creating this wonderful day in King City?
Looks like Counselor Paulson went.
Paul,
You forgot to let her hand
Paulson.
again.
So then, the next question, I guess, would be.
He just lowered his hand.
Oh, there you go, thank you, Micah. So then, assuming we all agree, do we want it to be Gibson Day or Ken Gibson Day? Who has strong opinions?
I think you have to use the full name.
All right, so Ken Gibson Day. Former Mayor Mayor Kenneth Gibson Day. There we go. All right, so with that, can we make the proclamation tonight, or do we have to simply make the motion and then we put the proclamation on the next?
So the glory about a proclamation is you can just make a proclamation. But we can also draft something nice up to, like a little document and get it framed and stuff. But that, of course, would take time, but we can make it for the council if you so desire. If you want to put it off, then we'll do that.
All right.
So you
I
can
think
make
we
the
should do that.
proclamation tonight.
Personally, my opinion is that because he celebrated, former Mayor Ken Gibson to make the proclamation tonight, and then we can follow up with, something pretty at another time that we can frame. But, so I will, do we have to move to make a proclamation, so I will entertain a motion?
I will make a motion I 21st of every year as former Mayor Ken Gibson Day in the city of King City. A day of celebration.
All right.
That's what they call.
So, we,
Or otherwise to be known as something else that former Mayor Ken Gibson approves in the future.
wonderful. All right. So then I will, call for the vote. All those in the room who approve, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And on Zoom, please raise your hand.
Counselor Petrie, Counselor Ocholi, Counselor Paulson. Counselor Paulson, can you hear us? He's not gonna.
Changed because he had it up.
Okay, we took him to task and now, right.
All right, well, he's not responding, so how about I say it's 6-0-1?
Okay. The motion carries. All right, so therefore, I proclaim, can I do it this way?
Possible here in the hotel, but I was voting for that too.
Yay, hello, we welcome you and we do, thank you, Micah. All right. So, for point of order.
7-0, unanimous.
7-0, unanimous, wonderful. So do I get to then just proclaim?
Sure.
So, I, Mayor Jamie Fender, henceforth, proclaim henceforth that October 21, in each and every year, in perpetuity, King City will celebrate Kenneth Gibson Day on October 21. Here, here. Woo! All right. So it be. Okay. All right, moving on. Police chief report.
All right, well, Mike stole my thunder, Kevin Keel. A couple of weeks ago, he does go to the academy, I believe it's May 16th, starts, that puts him ending at the end of August, and about 3 months, so we hope to have him on the road December. It would be great if that works out. So welcome to him. We'll have him, we'll try to get him here for when we do the award ceremony, so everybody can meet him. We talked briefly at the last meeting about the possibility of, we talked about vehicle costs. And in particular, we started talking about e-vehicles. And so I took a deep dive into e-vehicles, and I'm sorry I went there. They are outrageously expensive. And so I talked to one of the upfitters, and I talked about 3 vehicles in particular. A Ford F-150 pickup truck is $97,000. That's before it's ever outfitted and stuff. So well over $100,000 once it's done. And then I moved on. I said, all right, that's not going to work. Let's look at what are the 2 vehicles that people have been going to, and they are Teslas and the Ford Mustang, which is not a Mustang.
Right.
You know, being a four-door car. They are in the range of between 60 and 70,000. 184 of them for 11.4 million. So, I mean, it gets kind of spendy, right? And talking to the people who have done our work in the past, he said there's just no parts available. Cages, you know, wiring harnesses, they run literally like a mile worth of wire in these things when we're outfitting them and doing all the stuff that we have to do. So it kind of starts to, it just does. It prices us out of being able to do it. And so we start looking into our 3 options that are available. The Ford, like what we have outside, the Chevy Tahoe, state bid. Those Chevy Tahoes are around 43 to 45, depending on what kind of motor you put in them. Or if you go 2-wheel drive or 4-wheel drive. And then the one that I'm starting to lean towards a little bit is the Dodge Durango, which the state bid, those are 34 to 37,000, depending on the motor package you put in there. And obviously, it's 12 to 15,000 to upfit them from there. So you're still, you know, your costs are close to per car. We're also looking at, we've talked about this for some time, is a mini makeover and changing our cars from white to possibly a black vehicle and just kind of reversing our emblems and everything that are on it. So, you know, there's the possibility of something. I'll come to you a little bit more once I get the final bids in. Chevy's, like I said, they're taking bids for 10 days in May, and that's it for the year. The Fords are, I'm being told, once you order one, you're waiting 8 to 10 months before you ever see one. The Durango, they're making it sound like it's available just because it's not been something that's been widely used, but it's starting to be used a little bit more. We're starting to see more of them. I see them out where I live. In Columbia County, St. Helens uses them. It's a sharp-looking vehicle, so there's the options that we're looking at. Some people may have heard that there's been we've had this little Washington County crime wave here lately with a lot of cars being dumped in Washington County from Multnomah County, and there was one in the news yesterday where they were playing bumper cars, and they told out the front end of a Washington County car in a little bit of a chase. Up in North County where they, 2 stolens, and they were taking the catalytic converters off above them. Right, so the pandemic of catalytic converter theft is just still rampant in Washington County. Don't know that they're particularly being addressed, but, you know, you try to get them when you can. Hopefully people are observant. They're hearing, you know, there's been a lot more calls now where I'm starting to hear people hearing the power saws, the sawzalls going that are cutting off the catalytic converters, and they're making more calls. So there's starting to be a couple more arrests here and there. We haven't been untouched in the crime wave kind of deal with burglaries, both us and Tigard. They're getting hit like outbuildings, roll core condos. We're hit with numerous, their outbuildings, their garages that were hit through their man doors. That's right at the base of Best Western on the backside. So there's kind of a pretty good route to get in and out of there without being seen real well. They are taking corrections to that. I'll kind of answer you privately if you want to know what that is. And then Tiger's been being hit over in the Summerfield area, a very dark area that, you know, around the golf course and everything. So it's being addressed. Again, I won't say how it's being addressed, but, you know, it is being addressed in a way that hopefully we'll be able to put an end to it pretty soon. And that's about it. If anybody doesn't have questions, especially about cars, if you want to know.
So we'll do this backwards or differently. So questions from councilors on Zoom. Okay, hearing none. Questions in the room?
I know upfront cost of the EV is upfront. Do you have an idea what we spend on fuel throughout a year?
Yeah, we budget, it's around 24,000 or 30, around 30,000 a year for all vehicles.
How many do you have for?
4. And so that's for fuel and tires, brakes, you know, whatever we're going through. And we routinely were under that number. We've not breached that in, I don't remember ever breaching it.
Except for this year.
Right. Yeah, obviously, it's the, you know, gallons, you know, go up.
Yeah.
And stuff, and like I said before, these things get horrible mileage, right? It doesn't matter what car it is, it's 9 to 11 miles a gallon is what they get. And, you know, where the EVs would be great, right?
Well, yeah.
Where you could sit there. One of the things that we have kicked around is and something I wish I would have done a while back, but there is an e-bike that's made that the federal services are using, and it's phenomenal. And it's has a 50-mile range, 35-mile-an-hour bike that you can put literally everything. I can put a rifle on it. I can do whatever I want to do with it. 3 or 4 inch tires on it. You can hit a 6-inch curb at 35 miles an hour and it just keeps running and going, right? So it's really cool, and you know, something that probably, you know, is a great outreach project too, right?
Yeah.
Where it's just something to engage people with. But obviously, it's a wave with two states above and below us that are going to electric, you know, they're not gonna allow any gas vehicles being sold after 2030 or something like that. You know, it's kind of a way to try to get in front of it a little bit, and like you said, swallow the cost. The bikes are cheap, right? I mean, compared to a car, they're like $7,000 a piece and stuff, but it's something that, especially as we grow out west and we start to see our trails and all that sort of stuff, it's something that we're gonna have to do anyway and stuff, and so it's, you know, do we get ahead of that? But, you know, it's one of those that, yeah, I looked at that too, and it's a great question, is you know, what are the costs, but we're still, I think, below the electric vehicles for now, because it would be, I mean, I'd love it, it'd be kind of cool.
Well, that comes back.
Yeah, and stuff, but I know one of the things that they looked at was, I think it was Michigan State Police, they kind of threw e-vehicles out because it wouldn't go fast enough, and I'm like, all right, what kind of speeds are they looking at? And what kind of range and stuff, but I mean, I know that there's gotta be something, I mean, Tesla can prolong your battery life in your car when hurricanes are coming. Why can't they alter it for a law enforcement?
Right.
You know, and stuff, and so it's those type of things, you know, the questions they're deep dives and stuff, but, you know, like I said, until we're a little more flush, I don't know that it's financially something that we can get into right now.
We need to get Chalice in.
Okay. Again, preach, right? All right. Other comments or questions for the chief? All right.
I don't have too much. We had a ARPA session last week where we had multiple meetings on the final rule and some of the reporting guidelines, because we have to submit our ARPA report by April 30th. So we have like one more week to finish it up and submit it. The federal government did a very nice gesture and created an easy button, essentially, for all municipalities to just claim a simple $10 million standard loss, right?
Yeah.
So up to $10 million. So now every city, jurisdiction, what have you, can simply say, we lost $10 million in revenue, that's where our ARPA money went.
Right.
It freezes up in a lot of ways. However, the money still needs to be reported on how it's spent, and it still has to follow the guidelines within the final rule.
Right.
So luckily, as we've discussed earlier, this council's already established how those funds go, which makes our reporting a lot easier, because all I do is I take that resolution in order and how we're planning on spending it and the justification for those spending, and plug it into their reporting guidelines and shoot it over and claim the $10 million lost revenue. And this is how we allocated the money afterwards.
Great.
So it really changed the dynamic. There were some things in the interim final rule that were hazy. The language wasn't very clear. And, you know, Ernie and I and Brian, we dove through this, even brought our legal attorney in to wade through and sort through these criteria to try to figure out what the heck they were trying to tell us. And, you know, we finally come to this, like, balance for retention and the median income component, and set a, like a hazard pay or premium pay rate that was equal and equitable across the board. And from that, we did our distributions for the premium pay. This makes that a moot point. All that deep dive effort and legal work that we threw in is kind of moot now, but at least it was exercising futility, but, you know, it was good to do, and it makes it a lot easier now for reporting and auditing purposes and all that. So, positive there. I didn't have anything to report on the grant outcome yet, because as you heard from Councilor Rosenthal, we haven't heard anything yet. So, waiting for that to come. Audit arrived. Hey. So, it just literally came in yesterday. I opened the box when I got into my office in the morning and was like, hey, it's the audit. So, happy to have the audit finally here. We'll ask Polly Rogers to come and give a presentation in May, just in time to get started on next month's audit. So those two things, Brenda is doing a community, service, it stands for, but they are holding a week-long course in downtown Portland this week, where we are just basically providing comments and inputs for the transit lines throughout the area. And then there's a full-day course tomorrow and Friday. So that's going on. Hopefully we'll get some good stuff out of there. Passports are off the hook right now, and we're excited that we'll hopefully be bringing somebody new on here. We have, I think, at our last look, we had like 35 to 40 applicants.
Oh, no way.
Oh, that's.
So we are really excited.
That is really surprising. But great.
So yeah, we're really excited. We've
We're wanting to get back to work.
Where did you catch that? I didn't know.
Indeed.
And it like helps sort it. So it's like, this is a great applicant, this is a medium applicant, this is a low one. So we were really excited. Bravo to Ronnie for finding that.
Good job, Ryan.
Other than that, it's still dealing with COVID whiplash, but we are catching up, I think, and the future looks bright. So we did have a great meeting with Lions Group,
Yep.
who is looking at doing the town center area over near Alice Farm Garden. Very exciting to hear from them.
Very excited. It was a great meeting.
Yeah, I walked out of there going, this sounds great.
Yeah.
They were the group that did Rogers Ridge. They did Billbois down in Wilsonville. They're doing the River Terrace commercial site up at the Blueberry Farm right there. They did the Kmart up off of Milliken Way and up there in Beaverton that we want to go check out.
Yeah, we're gonna go on a visit.
They did a couple others, and they're a great group. They're backed by, Apollo Financing, something to that effect. It's a nationwide financial firm that's backing them. It's really exciting because it just gives you hope that it's going to actually come to fruition, right?
Yeah.
And
When the vision, we really talked about what the vision was for our town center and we had some mind melding, and it was really wonderful to meet with people who really understood what our vision is, really were excited about bringing that vision to fruition, and also thinking about, based on their experience, other ways that they can enhance our vision, right? And so it was just a great meeting. I really enjoyed it.
It was exciting.
It was exciting, right?
Yeah,
Thinking
and
about-
it's good to actually see people again,
Right.
So like, it's just, like, it seems like lately I've just had a lot of in-person meetings. Like, we had the West Side Economic Alliance, breakfast with the, candidates for the Metro, chair position for president of the Metro, board. And that was enlightening and just, hearing from those two candidates. There's just a lot going on, and it's like in person again.
Yeah.
So that kind of makes it fun, a little bit more personality to it, so. That's all I've really got. These guys are doing a phenomenal job, and Kevin's a great candidate. If you get the chance to meet him, he's a great guy, so. And John Huffman's up and running 100% now, so, everyone's getting going. It's getting exciting.
Perfect. All right, so, let's go to counselors on Zoom. So how about Lori, we'll start with you.
Yeah. So just three quick little things about the groups that I've been following. So King City Garden Villas is now getting ready for their May elections. King City Condos is trying to figure out whether they want to change their management company or not. And I did attend the MPAC, Metro MPAC meeting last month, and that meeting was pretty much 100% all about the 205 tolling question. It ended up that MPAC voted not to recommend approval to Metro. So the Metro is voting on this tomorrow morning at their Metro meeting. JPAC recommended yes. MPAC has recommended no. So we'll see how Metro votes on it tomorrow. If anyone's interested, so yeah.
An exciting vote at Metro tomorrow.
And that's it for me.
Oh, thank you, Lori. Let's go to Smart.
All right, thanks, Jamie. Yeah, again, I just want to say sorry. I kind of wanted to come in person, but something came up for me last minute, so I had to kind of attend to that situation. So thank you for understanding, and really appreciate how you coordinated everything with for Mayor Gibson and Dave. Really appreciate the efforts from the staff and everyone else to make it happen. So thank you. Just a few things. I attended the water board meeting, and as we all are kind of seeing that the snow level is kind of continued to at the higher levels, and we're getting more snow, and also when they start melting, there's no concern about any kind of drought. So good reporting there. The team was saying in the past, when we kind of have a little bit of any kind of scanty snow, we run into problem, but with the snow level this year, they foresee no issues. When we get to the point when the snow starts melting and becoming, the river levels will rise to the level where they're expected. Other things that was discussed is the fact that they're still struggling with staffing, and they've had a number of offers made, and they still don't have people taking the offers, and so they're still kind of short-staffed. And so if people are calling or kind of reaching out for any kind of help or assistance, it might take a while for getting back to people for any kind of issues that they have. They're asking for understanding and patience on everyone's part as they continue to work on staffing, and hopefully here they can get more people to be added to the team. Like we are kind of discussing about the mode of our meeting. The next meeting is also going to be in June. And they're kind of looking to see if it will be in person or not. It all depends on what the current cases and the spikes are doing between now and then. But they're kind of leaving it up to in person. But should the situation kind of become more serious or more concerning, we'll go to online. We'll go to virtual. But for right now, June meeting is going to be in person, unless if anything changes between now and then. I also had the meeting for the Edgewater was canceled or postponed. They're still kind of waiting to send a new date. There is no date yet as to when the meeting will hold. But I think a number of things that came up, and not everyone was available to attend, so they kind of postponed the meeting. So I don't have a date yet. So when I have a date, I'll be able to attend that meeting. And that's all I have today, Jamie. Thank you.
Thank you, Smart. I heard that Mount Hood Meadows or Timber, whatever, whoever is responsible for the skiing, is it Mount Hood, or both? Is that it's both, right? Anyway, I heard they're gonna have skiing until August because the snowpack is so high. So great for our water.
Yeah.
And Smart, I had to personally tell you, because it's obviously very important to everyone, but my water pressure in my house is so notably better. And I remember you saying something about the water pressure a couple months ago at one of our meetings, and I keep forgetting to say something to you, but suddenly, a few months ago, my water pressure just like tripled, and it's phenomenal. I don't know. So Smart, I applaud you for helping my water pressure. Thank you very much. that water board is impressive, that's important. Micah went home,
Thank you.
or not went home, but Micah had to, get off the meeting. As a reminder, Micah's at, he's out of town, Hermiston, attending our, League of, Oregon Cities Conference, representing King City, so, I'm sure having them all in one hotel room was, right? So, since I'm looking at you, we'll go with Mark Manolis.
Yeah, not a whole lot to report. I did go to a local political campaign fundraiser in King City, and people are seeing their flyers, but they say, I don't show up to the mayor's meeting, but I'm like, show up, go.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, so hopefully, a few.
I think I'll get,
encouraged.
yeah, I should get someone, because so far, there's been only my family, so, my family and friends. But I will say, Bob bought me, King City resident Bob bought me donuts last meeting, yeah. I appreciate that.
And then I guess we'll have to maybe discuss a vending machine for the lobby.
Yeah. I absolutely think we should have a vending machine. I'm sure you can get a used, what's a used vending machine? What's a vending machine cost? We could throw a couple, we have so many babies here, we should do pacifiers and like kids, like gum or like little. Right, so, Mark, I think you should price up a vending machine, how much is it?
It depends on what kind you want.
Well, you're looking
at $1,000.
$1,000, all right.
Return on investment.
Pretty quick, right, absolutely. Let's do it.
Next door to Safeway and pack it up.
Just pack it up, I mean, right? Absolutely.
Grocery outlet, sure.
Grocery outlet.
Yeah.
We could have a partnership with them, they could just, be our supplier, come here and supply it.
Be it.
Beautiful. All right, so do we all want Mark to go buy a vending machine at home, later reimbursement?
Yeah.
Possibly, we're gonna have to look at it.
We can
What
take
we
it,
actually do.
yeah, I mean, I'll send you like.
No, I think we are off ears, Mike, so, how about we, can we officially direct, Counselor Manolis and staff to go forward, research, and then, pick out the appropriate vending machine?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, we'll find a spot for
Can
it.
let's entertain, do I need a motion? I don't think we need a motion, so, it's so directed, you are so directed. I love it. City funding sources, every second, right? Okay.
What's that?
I think it was Kate. Yeah, I think it's Kate.
I love it.
Kudos to Kate.
Yeah.
We can call it the Kate vending. Anything else?
No.
Great. Okay. Shauna, could she let me use her, iPad during the meeting?
I don't really have much to report. I went to the last WACA meeting, but nothing major to report from that, so. Spend my time this week.
Okay, I, got to go to the CBD meeting, for Micah, and it was a very short meeting, and there is also not a lot to report from that meeting. They took a vote on approving some funding for different homeless projects around, but you've all heard about them. There's no new information there. The really cool part, though, was the roundtable at the end where cities were sharing what's going on in their cities, and everybody's events are coming back. And I did plug the job opening during that. I said, if you know anybody who wants to work for a great little city, send them our way. And mentioned that the 4th of July festival will be happening again, and I talked about our Shred Day as well for our citizens. And yeah, we've got like Tiger Balloon Festival happening again, and things are happening in the Rose Festival. Yeah, so it's pretty cool, and everybody's really excited about those things coming back. So there we go.
Great. Yeah. Thank you. All right, so it's difficult because I have so many meetings that happen kind of right after council meeting that I forget a month later, right, what I've gone to. So in the last month, I met with the HOA, the heads of the HOA. And one thing that, there's a couple of things that I would really like to try to get off the ground is a citywide weekend for garage sales. So coordinate garage sales with all the HOAs, and then we can advertise kind of collectively and try to get kind of people in and, you know, garage sailing into our city. I also am hopeful, what worked really well one year was after a garage sale, we had in a coordinated effort garage sale in Edgewater, is someone had organized a collection van to go around to all the participating homes of the garage sale. And at that time, it was Vietnam Veterans of America, and they had this big semi, and they took everything that wasn't sold. And it was so phenomenal. It was years and years ago. But I'd like to try to do something like that again. And so watch this space, kind of working on it. I also I participated in the Business Roundtable. We had new business, that was great. The Business Roundtable is really kind of taking steam and kind of getting more and more businesses involved. And then we have Tualatin Valley Create, which is basically an organization, the only organization in Washington County that is kind of the branch between the county and organizations and municipalities and artists, and its mission is to bring public art to kind of cities. So Tualatin Valley Create is who helped me find Mark Brody, who is King City's first municipal artist. And they're doing this wonderful program where they have a card that you can purchase, and then the card allows you to get benefits at various participating businesses, but they're really creative about what kind of benefits there are. So for example, a woman has donated her time in Hillsborough, and you can organize a walking history tour of the city with her, right, for example, and that's her, whereas other participating businesses are getting 10% off of retail, right, something like that. So we are starting to discuss within the Business Roundtable about, you know, how can King City residents, King City businesses get involved and participate. And then also, once a participating business signs up, they get on the mailer and flyers, and they get promotional information and so forth. So that was pretty neat to learn about. And so if anyone wants more information about that, contact me and I can provide you the details for Rezia, who's the director. Mike already talked about kind of the meeting that we had. I think previously at our last meeting, we talked about the meeting we had with OWL. So it's very exciting that the kind of group there at BFEN and Roy Rogers is just really starting to come together. And I don't know if everyone kind of knows this, but right across the street, so we're on the south end of BFEN. On the north end of BFEN and Roy Rogers, Tigard is creating also a kind of commercial space, and there will be kind of walking bike trails that connect the two sides, and I think that's really great. So that's kind of the vision. What else? Like Councilman Ellis, I have been doing just a ton of political campaign season. I've been attending a ton of campaign events, which is good getting King City out there, right? Getting King City to start getting recognized. I went to an interesting, kind of very large meeting, and the comments about King City were so wonderful, right? So just you know, really shows that King City is kind of on the map now, which I think is great, just some of that feedback. So have a lot of meetings coming up, so the next council meeting, I have to ask, I need to go back to Mayor Ken and say, how did, what did you do to keep track of everything that you did to bring it to, right, because I do a lot, I guess, I will say this, I'm not ready to share the full extent of the project or of stuff, but, I did speak with the owners of the zombie house. I'm very excited. I can say I am very optimistic, and we'll leave it at that, but keep your fingers crossed for the next month, and hopefully I will be able to announce some fun news soon. And, so I think that is all I have. We are going into executive session tonight. We're past our time, but, I'm trying to speak slow? Yeah, okay. We are going into executive session this evening, so with that, I will entertain a motion. Motion to adjourn. All right, second. All those in favor, in the room, say aye. Aye. All those on Zoom.
I got Councilor Choli, Councilor Petrie. All right, so,
Let's take a 5-minute break, and then, Lori and Smart, go take a break, and then, come back in 5 minutes, and we'll resume.
Hey, all you guys, thank you for all you do, all the time and effort you put into this stuff. Thanks, Chief. Thanks, boss.
Aw, thanks, John. Appreciate it. It's nice to see you in person here.
Yeah, it's nice to come back to.
Right? Isn't that nice? Okay.
Yeah, it was crazy, especially when he told me about it. He said, the wrong place to use for it, right? I mean, I was thinking, I'm like, my God, it's more than, I built my house 20 years ago, and it's more than my house. And it's like, and so.
I'm not, I
guess
Mike, I called, Mark.
Stuff comes out.
Mark.
The price has to come out.
Oh, yeah.
Technology to be able to charge.
Mark,
Yeah.
People can like,
Mark
fill it up.
is,
Yeah.
Like I saw
the,
the new.
public policy guy for, Metro Manhattan.
Oh, wow, that's where it's at.
So I called him.
The technology is coming.